Hello and welcome to a very special video about a very special speedway rider, Pera Jonssona. Who will ever forget Pera wobbling at the Reading track in his early days as a racer? Who can ever forget his triumphant success in the 1990 World Speedway Championship staged at Bradford? I was lucky enough to be standing alongside him to bring him onto the rostrum, and his smile on that day will never be equalled. Little did Pera know that just a few years later, in the summer of 1994, that he was to finish riding for good because of an accident in Poland. Pera is the professional amongst professionals, a rider who would never give up, a rider who would not say, oh well, second best is good enough. A win was what Pera was all about, and he must win races. And time after time, the loyal fans of Speedway, not only in Great Britain but worldwide, saw him picking up the checkered flag. As I say, a special video about a special rider. Enjoy it.
It's September 1994, and the Smallmead Stadium in Reading is packed with Speedway fans, not only from the United Kingdom, but also from Scandinavia. The supporters have turned out in force to pay tribute to one of Sweden's top track stars, Per Jonssona. Well, Per was tragically injured racing in Poland earlier in the summer. There's a galaxy of major stars who include the reigning World Speedway champion Tony Rickardson, World number 3 Craig Boyce, 3 times Australian champion Lee Adams, the 1994 Commonwealth champion England's Mark Loram, 3 times world individual champion Hans Nielsen, 1993 world champion American Sam Ermolenko, plus the legends from yesteryear, 6 times world master Ivan Major, 4 times world champion New Zealand's Barry Briggs, and former Bellevue and England's major star Peter Collins. They're all here again to race for their friend, the 1990 world champion Per Jonssona. Well, the event tonight takes the form of a 4-team tournament, and we'll get into action now with the opening heat. In red for the Team Mullet is Mark Loram. For Team Castagna, who himself not able to ride, will be Craig Boyce. Team Nielsen sees the former World Under-21 star Brian Anderson. And Team Ermolenko, the American champion Greg Hancock. That's the way they line up, all in aid of Per Jonssona, and the racing starts in a moment. Well, John Homer, the referee in duty tonight, lifts the tapes and away the riders charge into the first turn, and a good advantage there for Craig Boyce from Australia, and the chase on now with Greg Hancock. But just look at Brian Anderson from Coventry Bees, the former World Under-21 champion, trying to make the break, but still way out ahead is Craig Boyce. Anderson through into second place now, and that leaves Hancock, and Hancock on the inside, but Anderson gets the drive round the outside and down the back straight. Anderson in second place, but still leaving clear for Craig Boyce out there in the blue helmet colour. Craig, of course, with the Pool Pirates, and doing oh so well to finish third in the World Individual Final at the Williams track not so long back. So Boyce well and truly clear. Brian Anderson in second place, and Greg Hancock, well, a problem for him. Bit of a problem for him. 1 lap to go. Still, it is Craig Boyce race leading out there, breathing fresh air. A distance between him and second place man Brian Anderson. And we watch now the talented Australian Craig Boyce, who now sweeps to the flag. Now picks up the win. In second place, it is Brian Anderson, and third, it goes to Mark Loram. So an excellent start for Team Castagna, picking up the vital 3 points. Let's focus our attentions now on the second of our heats. This is where we see the captain of his own team, Dave Mullet, out in red, Billy Hamill in blue, Tony Olson in white, and Sam Ermolenko in yellow and black. So as we told you earlier, the major stars back to battle it out again in this Per Jonssona meeting. Tense time now as the tapes arise, and away they charge into the lead, and it's Dave Mullet on his home track. Oh, but a challenge now from Sam Ermolenko, the American world champion of 1993. Ermolenko holds pole position over Dave Mullet. Dave, of course, being so invincible around his own track, finding it a little bit tough in the fast lane now. Ermolenko leads. Mullet in second place. Mullet comes back in Ermolenko, but it's Ermolenko still race leading. The battle going on for third place between Billy Hamill and Tony Olson. Just look at that battle there. Whoa. As Hamill drifts wide, it's Tony Olson grabbing through into third place. 1, 2, 3 of it, Ermolenko, Mullet and Olson in that order. The American, though, looking fine on this Smallmead track. Ermolenko with 1 lap to go. Back now to a respectable second position, and Tony Olson, do or die, holding on for third. Well, as we said, it's a 14 tournament, and Team Ermolenko are going to score the 3 points in this as they cross the line right now. Ermolenko picks up the win. Second position to Dave Mullet, and third goes to Tony Olson.
Ride was the first meeting here at Reading in 1983. He was with the Getting Garner touring team with Anders Michanek and Ricard Halsayan. He was then 16, looked very promising. At the end of that season, Jan Anderson and I were talking about trying to build up the other half of the team. We had good heat leaders, but really not much else. So he recommended Per Jonssona, and as luck would have it, Per came over to England to watch Jan ride in the Telford Indoor Ice meeting. So they came round to my house, and I was planning to go to Sweden anyway, but it had always been Gothenburg. I'd never been to Stockholm before. So the end result was that I ended up in a car going to Stockholm and watched Per for many hours on video, and I came back absolutely convinced that Per Jonssona had every chance of being a future World Speedway champion. Then we had problems with the Speedway Control Board to get a work permit, and that was down to one man, Dick Brasher. The Speedway Riders Association agreed they had no problems with it. Lots of people like Phil Crump and James Easter, who were very knowledgeable on the world of Speedway, they fully backed Pera Jonssona as well. Unfortunately, Mr. Brasher was very hard to move, so we had a two-pronged attack. Pat Bliss went to the offices and demanded, forced her way in. I went into the Reading Evening Post and said that I would bet him £1,000. The idea being we'd both put £1,000 into the Riders Benevolent Fund. If I was right, I would take my money out at the end of the season and he would leave his in. I was confident that would be the case. And as a result of the two-pronged attack from Pat and I, reason won through in the end. Pera Jonssona joined us and he was on his way to becoming a World Speedway Champion.
Well, Pat, if we can take you back in time to when Pera first of all came to Reading, you were instrumental in getting him here.
Well, yes, more so Jan Andersen, who we relied greatly on with his advice on riders. He said he was going to be good. We saw him once and we said, yes, we'd like him. He came over and he was so keen to come to England that we couldn't believe it. In fact, we got his work permit through, rang him and said we'd got it, and he got on the next plane over. Unfortunately, the work permit hadn't actually arrived when he arrived, so once in England, they then deported him for 2 days, and then he then had to wait for the work permit before he came in.
What was that first meeting like for him, Pat?
The first meeting at Reading,
yeah.
Or the first meeting? Oh, he was very, very keen. His machinery wasn't very good. In fact, Pera was never a great mechanic. His problem was he liked the bikes to look pretty. And I think he used to put sticky tape on and say, come and look at my bikes, come and look at my bikes. And really, he didn't do much to them, but he had such a natural ability that it didn't matter what the bikes were like, he was still going to win.
And also, happy birthday to Bill for next Saturday. And I've got to tell you that Sarah loves you not, so happy birthday, Bill.
Well, we'll just take a small break away from tonight's main action as we reflect back on Pera's career. And here we watch him back in 1984 for the racers.
Yes, well, thank you, Peter, and this was in fact 6 years before ML Video Sport came into being, and I was visiting Smallmead Stadium as an amateur videographer with my newly acquired video camera, and as you can see, in those days video was in its infancy and picture quality is not up to today's standard. However, we thought the fans would like to see these early days of Pera circuiting the Smallmead Stadium. Pera is in the red helmet, leading the way against the Cradley Heathens. In white is Lance King. Unfortunately, engine failure was to rob Pera of 3 points at this stage. And annoyed, Pera returns to the pits. My next clip comes from Heat 13. Jan Andersen this time is in the red helmet, Pera Jonssona in blue. Lance King leads the way for the Cradley Heathens. Jan, of course, was to be a great influence on Pera's early years at Smallmead. Pera now finds the outside line and the dirt. Alan Graham is in 4th position. So Pera manages to hold off Alan Graham for 3rd place. We now move on to the second half of the meeting, and we see Tim Hunt in the blue helmet with Pera in red. Lance King again in white, and this time Simon Cross in the yellow-black. sweeps around the outside in that familiar move to try and grab second place.
No, he's pretty good actually, I noticed.
Unfortunately, a second engine failure counts Pera out of the race. Fortunately, this was to happen seldom in later years.
Come on, Tim, hold it, mate, hold it. You got it.
So a disappointed young Pera returns again to the pits. We now move on to August the 13th. Pera has a little more experience now on the small mead track. He's riding in the red helmet with Pierre Benefis in blue. Lance King and Simon Cross represent the Cradley Heathens for their second visit to the stadium. This time, the slightly more experienced Per Jonssona leads from the gate, with Pierre Benefis coming through to second place. Incidentally, Per and Pierre are at this stage sharing lodgings with Pat Bliss, the promoter, and she recalls that in the early days the Swedes spoke very little English, and in fact learnt most of their English from the other racers, so you can imagine some of the language that was learnt. And so Per Jonssona brings in 3 points, contributing to Reading's win over Cradley Heathens in August of 1984.
Well, let's go back now to the racing and the Per Jonssona benefit meeting. Heat number 3 with Jason Crump, Jeremy Doncaster, Hans Nielsen and Mikael Karlsson as they line up at the tapes, ready for the off. Throttle arms back. And the clutch springs out as the 4 rocket into that first turn, and what a close bunching there. And it's Doncaster in blue who's drifting wide. Then, oh, and Doncaster's got all sorts of problems, head over heels. His machine follows him over, leaves Doncaster in a heap on the second turn. His machine down on the ground. The backup crew, the medical crew, rush to Doncaster's attendance. Jeremy, of course, obviously didn't expect that. What on earth happened, we'll never know. Picking up some incredible drive and cartwheeling himself all over the track. Well, the exclusion light has gone on and Donkey has gone out. So it's back to the restart of heat number 3. We have Jason Crump, Hans Nielsen and Mikael Karlsson. And this time of asking, it's Hans Nielsen who holds the advantage around the first and second turn. And a challenge going on now from Jason Crump. And it's Crump closing down on the inside of Nielsen. But Nielsen in the white helmet with that distinctive front wheel spoiler. Well, he's holding the advantage. Jason Crump, of course, well used to riding the small mead track. He's guested for the absent Per Jonssona of recent and has got a liking to the stadium, and probably just as important, the fans like him. But no disputing the master in this race is the former 3-times world speedway champion Hans Nielsen. Nielsen, who tried in vain to collect his 4th title at Williams recently, was adrift on that one and claimed just a 2nd place. So Nielsen holding the affray with just 1 lap to go. Nielsen clear now, and Jason Crump backing off a little bit. A respectable 2nd place for him, and 3rd position is going to go to Mikael Karlsson. But down to the line, down to the checkered flag, comes Hans Nielsen with Jason Crump 2nd and Mikael Karlsson 3rd.
Sir Hans, here at the Per Jonssona benefit, what do you remember first of all about your early races maybe with Per Jonssona?
Well, actually, when I first rode against Per, I think I was here at Reading, and it was a little bit hard going then, I remember, but you know, certainly soon after that he turned in to become a extremely not only fast but very safe rider. You never really saw Pera do anything radical on the track, and I mean that makes it even more silly and sad that an accident like this should happen to him.
He developed very fast and was one of the top world-class riders along with us. He picked up the 1990 World Championship.
Well, that's right. I mean, Pera always had a very sort of unique riding style with keeping his wheels in line, whereas everybody else was sliding a little bit more, and we never really sort of found out exactly why that is, but it certainly seemed to work, and of course he's been very successful in winning a world title as well.
How does it affect top riders like yourself when you see other top riders getting injured?
Well, it's always sad. I mean, one of the first real bad ones that I witnessed myself was obviously when Eric Gunderson got hurt at Bradford, and of course a few weeks after you really don't feel like riding a speedway bike, but on the other hand you try and tell yourself that okay, speedway is dangerous, but so is a lot of other sports and a lot of other things, just driving a car on the road, and whatever you do, you can get hurt, and you try and put it to one side and just get on with life, get on with speedway, and just obviously hope that it won't happen to you and to anybody else for that matter, but unfortunately we see it happen sometimes.
So just finally, how highly would you rate Pera Jonssona as a rider?
Well, obviously he's proven himself. Winning a world title is obviously the best you can ever do, and Pera probably never was the consistent gator in top meetings, and that probably resulted in him not winning any more world title than he has already. But if he would have been a more consistent gator, then he would certainly have won more titles, because he's always been super fast and a good technical rider. So he's been a super rider.
Well, away we go again now with heat number 4. Tony Ricketson, the world champion, Lee Adams, Peter Narlin and Peter Carlson. It's Team Nielsen who lead with 9 points at the moment over second place Team Mullet with 7 and Team Mamelenko on 4 with Team Castagna on 4. But no disputing this one. Heat number 4 and Peter Narlin, the Swedish international, with Craiglie Heath leading the field over Lee Adams, 3 times the Australian champion, in second place. And the battle is on now for the minor places again, but we watch Peter Narlin cruising round, a track expert at Smallmead, as so many of the riders here today are. It's Narlin's race. Lee Adams in second position. Tony Ricketson, the world champion, has yet to make an impact in this race. He's holding third position, but as we watch him now, he's beginning to close down on Lee Adams, holding second place. Here comes Rickardson right round the outside, and it's Rickardson who has the advantage, but Adams is back again. Adams through on the inside, holds the position again. Rickardson closes down on him. Tony Rickardson battling for all his worth, and still the two are locked together while Peter Narlin is out in the lead, and the battle royal is going on. There is Rickardson. He has got second place over third man Lee Adams. So Tony Rickardson in second place there, but the winner, Peter Narlin. A good opening ride then for Peter Narlin, but let's take you back now, way back in time to 1986 and the British Open.
Well, Jan Anderson, king of the concrete. Are you going to be king of Reading this afternoon?
Well, I hope so, of course. Pera Jonssona, partner, is going really well at the moment, so, and hopefully I can do the same.
I think it's fair to say that Pera's a young man who's come on tremendously over the last 2 or 3 seasons, probably under your guidance. Is that true?
Well, if I can give him a few tips, I will do it. I mean, especially this year he has come up. He has picked his average up by 1.5 points, I think. That's quite a lot in one season.
And so your riders coming out now for heat number 6, and first time on the track this afternoon, representing the home track. In blue, it's Swedish rider Pera Jonssona. From Wolverhampton, in white, it's Sudden Sam Ermolenko. And in yellow and black, it's Danish rider Preben Eriksson. So the scene's set for yet another tremendous race here at Smallmead Stadium this afternoon. The sun really strong now, beating down on the commentary position here. I don't know which is the strongest, the sun beating down or the shell beating me about as the riders flash past us here as we're positioned almost on the first turn right by the start at Smallmead Stadium. A super little stadium, purpose-built for Speedway. Many years ago, when Speedway had to leave Tilehurst by Reg Fearman and his colleagues. And away at the first show there, the rider in red there, Jan Andersen, the home rider, and there's a faller there in white. Samuel Malenko bites the dust, but the race continues with Per Jonssen in blue in the lead. Jan Andersen, the home two riders, first and second, Per Jonssen, Jan Andersen, and Preben Eriksen in that order as they go down the back straight now and come round. Samuel Malenko in white, remounted now, but well behind the other riders. Coming down now over the starting line. It's Per Jonssen, Jan Andersen, and Preben Eriksen. Coming towards the start of the penultimate lap now. And a comfortable lead for Per Jonssen in blue, with Jan Andersen shepherding him round. Teammate, of course. And those two being followed home by Preben Eriksen. Here they come now, taking the final two turns, coming up to the checkered flag. It's going to be Per Jonssen, Jan Andersen, followed home by Wolverhampton's Preben Eriksen. And tremendous cheers there from the very partisan home team crowd at Reading here this afternoon.
Well, back to the meeting we go with heat number 5 and a return to track action for Jan Andersen, one of the race's favourite sons. Ray Morton in blue, Shane Bowes in white, and Mick Poole in yellow and black. Well, the scoring, as I told you, Team Nielsen out at the front with 9 points, Team Mullet on 7, and Team Castagna and Team Malenko on 4. Let's see what Heat 5 has to bring as the riders crouch. Out goes the clutch arm, and away they charge again into that rapid first turn with Jan Andersen back turning a wheel at Reading, especially for Per Jonssen, holding the advantage over second place man Shane Bowes, a member of the racers team in '94, and Ray Morton and Mick Poole struggling on, but no disputing Jan Andersen. And what a pleasure it is for the Smallmead fans to see the true racer back again. Well, Jan Andersen, of course, one of the key figures in bringing Per Jonssen to the Smallmead track at the start of Per's career. And we have to say that Jan has retired a couple of times, but has come out of special retirement, especially for his close friend, Per Jonssen. So I'm sure Per is watching this in the grandstand and has got pleasure in watching Jan turning a pretty smart wheel at Smallmead. 1 lap to go for Jan Andersen. There he is, the classic style of him in the red helmet colour. In second position is Shane Bowes. Mick Poole now has moved through into third position. One wonders whether that's the way it's going to finish. Down comes the flag on Jan Andersen for the win. Shane Bowes second, and Mick Poole back for third position. Well, a great win for Jan Andersen. Now takes Team Nielsen ahead with 11 points, but closing down fast with 10 is Team Mullet. In third position, Team Malenko 5, and Team Castagna with 4. And there we watch the true racer, Jan Andersen, just coming back and talking to Laurie Stark there on the start line as he cruises round, much to the appreciation of the Reading fans.
Jan Andersen, you're one of the Reading riders here at Smallmead when Per Jonssen signed up for the club. What were your early memories here at Reading, Per Jonssen?
Well, Per, he was a natural on the bike, so I think everybody knew that he's going to be something special. I suppose it took a little while to get some consistency. He could have some really good ones and a couple of players. It took a while, but I suppose when he got going, he was very safe and steady on the bike. More like a maniac out on the roads, I remember with it.
There was Per Jonssen and also Jim Nelson who kind of came along at the same time.
Yeah.
Did you see a lot of them in Sweden before they came over to this country?
I saw them quite a lot, yes. Both doing very well. Jimmy was, I suppose, more the aggressive rider, and Per was more the natural rider out of them too. So then, of course, Per stayed with me a bit as well to start when he first came over, so I got to know him quite well.
How did you get on off of the track?
Oh well, very good. we have stayed friends from the first day I suppose we met, really. I know his family quite well, and I know his Maria very well, his girlfriend, his kids, so...
You saw him develop both on and off the track. First of all, on the track, how do you think he developed over those years?
He was just very good straight off. I remember when he was about 16 and in the Swedish final he got 4th place there, and I thought this guy is going to be something really special. And he got Torbjörn Harrison behind him, who knows a lot about speedway, and I think he helped him a lot to start with, to tell him a few tricks about the sport and whatever. And I suppose I tried to give him the advice I had at the time.
Do you think he developed off the track as a person as well?
Of course he did. After when he become a father, I think that changed everybody. He got a lot more responsibilities and things.
So, when you look back, what will be maybe your fondest memories of Per Jonssona on the track?
Something that comes across now, of course, is the World Final up at Bradford. It was an amazing evening there, the way he rode, and he didn't do it from the start, he just passed people, and he has always shown that he's the best around Bradford.
And what about those performances in the Reading Racer jacket?
Well, as he come, as Per developed, he just got better and better. I mean, the last couple of years, he was the king up here. There wasn't many riders who could touch Per around here. He had a really bad night if he's going to get beaten around here.
Did his accident affect you more than others, the fact that you knew him so well and you had ridden with him so often?
It was easy to make a decision now for me to quit speedway and carry on doing other things.
And quite fitting, your last rides in the Per Jonssona benefit meeting.
If he's not going to have another one, and I will do that one as well, but we don't know that yet. It could be another one in Sweden maybe next year, but if he wants me there, I'll be there.
Well, we take a break then from the main meeting because the vintage stars, the multi-world champions of yesteryear, are all here again to race for Per Jonssons. The champions race number 1, Anders Michenek, Barry Briggs and Peter Collins. What a connection of world champions we have down on the line. Well, there is Peter Collins distinctively in those leathers, and look at that for a guest starting marshal, a former Reading rider, former England international, John Davis, who's come out of the woodwork to start this race especially. Well, the multi-world champions, they line up and they all have that splendid Per Jonssona benefit meeting race jacket on. That's Michenek there on the inside, Peter Collins on the outside, and then we look for Barry Briggs, that distinctive crouch, those elbows of Briggo, slightly more courtier now than he used to be. Well, the dirt deflector's in evidence here, but the battle going on between Barry Briggs and Peter Collins. It's Collins in red, Barry Briggs, and Briggo up on the inside there. Anders Michenek way adrift in this race, and that perhaps is somewhat of a surprise. So they're cruising around. Classic shot there of the multi-world champions. And now it's gone Barry Briggs. They've left him standing because they've closed down on both on the outside and the inside as well. Who's it going to be? Well, the shortened race, 3 laps only in this one. As they cruise round again, the boys beginning to get a little bit tired, I guess. It's been a long time since they've raced in earnest, but they're certainly putting on a fine show tonight. And as I say, the multi-world champions putting on a fine display. Peter Collins is race leading. There goes PC with 1 lap to go. It's Anders Michenek now through to 2nd place, and poor old Barry Briggs beginning to struggle somewhat, but Peter Collins way ahead of the field, the former England and Bellevue world champion. And it was PC who rode in the Golden Greats meeting not so long back. There goes the win. It goes to Peter Collins. Anders Michenek 2nd, and Barry Briggs in 3rd position. Well, more from the champions of yesteryear to come as the meeting progresses. We'll turn our attentions back to the main meeting, and we'll line up for heat number 6. That's in a moment, but there is PC, Peter Collins in those new leathers, especially for the Golden Great Series and especially for Per Jonssona tonight. The crowd, of course, anticipating some good classic action from those champions, and I don't think they were denied either. But it's back to the meeting we go now. Heat number 6, we have Mark Loram, Billy Hamill, we have Hans Nielsen and Peter Carlson in that order. Well, Mark Loram got a lot of catching to do. It's Team Nielsen who lead at the moment with 11 points. Team Mullet on 10. So anything can happen as we line them up for heat number 6. They'll come at the starters' orders in a moment. The roar of the exhaust pipes. The riders just settling themselves down. So let's watch them as they make for that first turn. Mark Loram in red, Billy Hamill blue, Hans Nielsen white, Peter Carlson in yellow and black. Away go the tapes. Away the riders charge again, and it's the rider out there in blue. That is Billy Hamill. And Hans Nielsen with that front wheel and rear wheel spoiler in second position. And Mark Loram, I beg your pardon, Mark Loram into third position. And that's leaving Peter Narlin, a race winner previously, struggling at the back. So Nielsen has the advantage. There he is. We watch him in fine style over Dave Mullet, but still it is out in the front, Billy Hamill. So Billy Hamill clear on that one in blue. Hans Nielsen in second place in the white helmet colour, and a bit of the charge, a bit of the attack from Mark Loram, the Commonwealth champion. Again, a world finalist in 1994, but perhaps somewhat a little bit adrift in this race. So the American Billy Hamill with 1 lap to go. He's clear. Hans Nielsen settling back for his second place. That's going to move the scoring just slightly on aggregate, but really Team Nielsen doesn't have too much to worry about. So we watch him down to the line. There they go. There goes Billy Hamill for the win. Hans Nielsen second and Mark Loram third.
Target.
Well, I hope you get it.
I don't fail on my targets normally.
Apart from Dirty Gertie from number 30, that's another story. A lot of people inquiring about the riders' race jackets tonight. What's going to happen to them?
4 are going to be auctioned. That's Tony Ricardson, obviously, as the world champion. Jason Crumps is going to be auctioned. Jan Anderson, for obvious reasons. And Hans Nielsen as well. And after this race, Peter, I'll tell you what I'm going to do with the rest.
Heat 7 now as the riders come into line. Dave Mullet ahead with his own team in red, Craig Boyce blue, Peter Narlin in white, Mikael Carlson in yellow and black. It's Team Nielsen in lead with 13 over Team Mullet on 11. Those are the 2 breakaways there. So obviously Team Mullet looking for points from Dave Mullet himself in Heat 7. Away they fly and away charge the riders, and it is Peter Narlin in the white helmet who's got the advantage over the scrap for second place, although now Mikael Carlson beginning to show down, and Dave Mullet, well, a little bit adrift tonight. Perhaps the emotions have got the better of him, although he comes back into the frame into the third position. So still ahead of the field is Peter Narlin, Mikael Carlson and Dave Mullet in that order. And Craig Boyce looked so sharp earlier on, is yet to show in heat number 7. Peter Narlin from Sweden, a peculiar old season for him. He started off by not riding in the British League and then was incorporated in the Cradley Heath team and has really turned the corner for the Heathens, who were struggling earlier on. Again, hit like Reading with injury. So Narlin well and truly back in the fold in British League and certainly showing his viabilities as a champion in this race. Peter Narlin then race leading. He's out there clear. What a style, what a track merchant we have here at Small Mead tonight. And a bit of a lift there as he crosses the line for a win. Second position, Mikael Carlson, and third for Dave Mullet.
I first met Per, I think, if I remember properly, around 85, 86. And was in Continent. We have a few international meetings, and that's when I first met him, and well, he was already a really good rider then. And well, I didn't know him as a pair so much because, well, I couldn't speak much English then, and you know, we didn't know each other very well. But yeah, it was a really good then. And then we went on with the years, and we started to. When I come over to Ipswich, we met a few times in England when I was riding against him. I was riding for Ipswich then. And then, well, and then I come over in 90 when he won the World Championship, and I started to ride for Reading.
Well,
And the riders for this final. In red on the inside, Pera Jonssona. In blue, Amanda Castagna. In white, Roman Matuzak. In yellow and black, Jeremy Doncaster. In green, Tommy Knudsen. And the very short qualifier on the outside in black and white, Zoltan Hajdu. So the referee is attempting to get, starting marshal attempting to get all the riders into line, just checking the starting position there of Tommy Knudsen. But the green light's on. The tapes are up. Making the first bet, it's Pera Jonssona, Roman Matuzak, Amanda Castagna, and coming through on the inside there from nowhere was Tommy Knudsen. And again coming up on the inside is Jeremy Doncaster. So it's Pera Jonssona first, Roman Matuzak second, Jeremy Doncaster third, Tommy Knudsen fourth, Amanda Castagna fifth, Zoltan Hajdu back at the back. But it's Pera Jonssona, Roman Matuzak, Jeremy Doncaster, Kelvin Tatum. Oh, Pera will be absolutely delighted to be winning this race. 6 laps, may I remind you. But it's still Pera Jonssona, Roman Matuzak, Jeremy Doncaster, and now it's Amanda Castagna. Tommy Knudsen pushed back into 5th place there. But it's Pera Jonssona from Reading and Sweden winning this race. He's been second, but never has he won a race. This, the 40th station of the Czech Golden Helmet. So at the end of the 4th lap, it's still Pera Jonssona, Roman Matuzak, Jeremy Doncaster, Amanda Castagna, Tommy Knudsen, and Zoltan Hajdu. Oh, and what style this Pera Jonssona has. He will be a really worthy winner. And with just 1 lap to go, it's Pera Jonssona first, Roman Matuzak second, Jeremy Doncaster, Amanda Castagna, Tommy Knudsen, and Zoltan Hajdu. And will Roman Matuzak make it a happy afternoon for the Czech crowd? It doesn't look as though it's going to be, and Pera Jonssona celebrates with a wheelie, oh my! And just 2 bike lengths in it. And Pera Jonssona, and I should say Vic Lonsdale, being a very happy man tonight. But what a tremendous ride from Pera Jonssona. So it's Pera Jonssona first, Roman Matuzak being the first to congratulate him, realising that he was beaten by the better man on the day. So it's Pera Jonssona's golden helmet, the very beautiful golden helmet, the 40th anniversary. So Pera Jonssona the winner, Roman Matuzak, and Roman Matuzak encouraging some wheelies, and Pera Jonssona taking him up on the offer. Oh, wonderful atmosphere. So just to recap on the score of that final race. Pera Jonssona first, Roman Matuzak second, Jeremy Doncaster third, Amanda Castagna fifth, fourth, Tommy Knudsen fifth, Zoltan Hajdu sixth. And congratulated by John Smith, Tony Olsen. What a happy man. So Tony Olsen just clearing away that Pera Jonssona's old machine, because he's now going to take delivery of a brand new Czechoslovakian-made Jawa. How tremendous. As the cameramen gather around to have a look at this bike, together with the final presentations.
Well done, Reading Racers!
Na nejvyšší stupeň vítězů pro cenou trofej 40. zlatou přilbu Československá.
So as we come now to the presentations, Pera Jonssona is presented with the golden helmet, the 40th golden helmet of Czechoslovakia. What a happy man he is.
Pro něho i zlatý
as he receives the decoration for first place, giving the smiles in the way, the new balls, some flowers, and in just a moment receive the prize of the brand new Jawa machine. And now coming up to the podium to take second prize and to congratulate the very worthy winner, it's a very exciting Czechoslovakian rider, Roman Matuzek. I think he'll be a little disappointed. Pera's found some riders. And now coming up to take third place, Jeremy Doncaster. Jeremy did extremely well today.
Jeremy! Na počest vítěze švédská státní hymna.
So as Pera Jonssona is immediately dethroned, coming off the podium to take delivery of his brand new Jawa Speedway machine. So Pera Jonssona about to get pushed away, riding his brand new machine. Oh, and this is a sight to behold. Roman Matuzek riding his bike under power with a foot on the back mudguard of Pera Jonssona's new machine because they can't get it to start, pushing him around the track. This man really is some character. How we would love to have him back over in British Speedway. Speedway is so short of characters these days, and there's no shortage of character, style and exhibitionist amongst Roman Matuzek. So as Pera Jonssona goes back into the pits, and Roman Matuzek continues to do a few extra laps.
Heat number 8 with Jason Crump, Lee Adams, Brian Anderson and Sam Ermolenko. Team Nielsen lead with 16, Team Millet 12, and both the other teams, Team Castagna and Team Ermolenko, on 7 as the tapes rise on heat number 8. And look at that, a lightning start there for Lee Adams in blue, and crunching through now is Jason Crump. Jason Crump takes Sam Ermolenko past Lee Adams, and I guess Lee is wondering what on earth he's got to do to correct that as the racing roars on at Smallmead. And Jason Crump really cutting a bit of a mighty dash in this one. There is Crumpy in red, and following through Sam Ermolenko, and Lee Adams back now. There is Lee in third place in the blue helmet colour. But it is really all about the young sensation, Jason Crump, and dare we say it, following in his dad's footsteps. He certainly is at Smallmead tonight. No slow coach at all, and even a bad race doesn't put him off, because he'll come back charging in his next outing, as he is in this. So Jason Crump then, race leading over the others. It's still Samo Malenko second and Lee Adams third. Brian Anderson yet to show. He's holding the rear position, way adrift of the leaders. But we watch Malenko as he crunches down. As the race draws to a conclusion there. Results for you coming up right now.
Joined by Jason Crump. First of all, Jason, you've only been riding in this country for a short period of time. What will you remember about Per Jonssona on the track?
Probably loads and loads of things, really. I mean, it's no secret that Per was the rider who I modelled myself on, and you know, I went out of my way and watched him a lot. And you know, probably if there was one thing I was pressed to say was my favourite about him, it was probably the way he came through from the back against, you know, the top riders in the world, which is not an easy thing to do, and he seemed to do it race after race. So you know, it just made him a special rider.
You did have the chance to race him early in the year, Paul versus Reading. Was it great to be on the track with Per Jonssona? Oh,
for sure. I mean, it's probably the same when you go out on the track with Sam or Hans, or, you know, there's a lot of riders that you feel the same, but when you've got a favourite rider like Per was, to me, it was just a little bit special. And I did manage to beat him once, which was, for me, it was unbelievable. And the other times I think I was following from quite a distance behind, but when you do follow him, and him and Amando got a 5-1 over me here one night in the last heat, and Per virtually got off his bike and Amando hopped on his bike at one stage. You know, I mean, he was just so good at team riding, and you know, he was just an exceptional rider, and the sport is definitely the poorer with his loss.
You were a big fan of him, you did model yourself on him. What was it about Per Jonssona that was great?
Probably too many things to mention because we haven't got long enough, but like I said, the way he could pass riders from the back, and you know, I mean, he was just a special guy, and it's just so sad that it's what's happened to him has.
You're known as a battler on the track. Per Jonssona faces a big battle off of the track.
That's right. You know, and hopefully Per's got the strength in himself, and you know, he's a very strong person, very determined person, because to reach the top in any sport, you have to be strong and determined and be a very hard person, and hopefully that'll help him for the, you know, to make the best out of his life.
You're a rider looking for a future in the sport, a young rider. How does injuries to top-class riders affect you mentally?
Oh, it affected me a lot at the time. You know, I obviously thought a lot about it, especially being a top rider like Per. I mean, you don't wish it upon anybody, but when things like that happen to the top guy, I mean, it's happened in a few sports over the last couple of years. Road racing lost Wayne Rainey, suffered a similar injury to Per, and you know, Formula One car racing lost Senna, and he was the greatest in that. And you know, things, you always think about things like that, but I suppose you just got to hope.
You are the future of the sport. Do you look and think that maybe things have to be changed for your safety and the safety of other young riders like yourself?
Oh, I'm sure, you know, we all ride Speedway, and we know it's a dangerous job, and it's just a risk we take, and you know, some riders take bigger risks than others, and then you get a rider like Per, and he never probably really took many risks, and he got injured. You know, I think it's just the luck of the draw, and I think when you're a Speedway rider or have anything to do with dangerous sport, you've got to believe in fate, and you know, just like I said, hope that you're going to be okay.
Back to the racing heat number 9, the world champion Tony Ricketson in red, Jeremy Doncaster up all in blue. We then look at Tony Olsen in white and Greg Hancock in yellow and black. And away go the riders again, and making an early attempt there is Jeremy Doncaster, but being left behind by a smarter couple of riders out there, Greg Hancock and Tony Ricketson, the world champion, and it's Ricketson who takes advantage over this one, over Donkey and over third place man Tony Olsen. Greg Hancock, the American, still yet to show. Well, there's an oblique shot of the riders. Shane Bowes watching from the pits area. As we go back to the racing, we're still watching Tony Ricketson, although the race being brought to a halt for one of the riders. The rest of them charge on. Peter Carlson there. Ooh, he doesn't like that one. And I'm not surprised, because it's Ricketson who stole the show at the Belgian track for the 1990 World Speedway final. Ricketson all the way picked up the gold crown for being the world champion, and he's underlining that fact tonight. So Tony Ricketson race leading. There's Ivan Major, and Mick Bell as well, a former team manager, just watching the action. Ricketson then is going to cruise to victory in this one. The wheelie proves that. He picks up the win over Tony Olsen second and Greg Hancock third, and poor old Donkey struggling at the back. That's the way it went for heat number 9. We'll look at heat number 10 now, which will be next on the track. The riders coming into view: Jan Anderson, Ray Morton, Shane Bowes and Mick Poole. There we are. So watch for Jan Anderson then in the red helmet colour, Ray Morton blue, Shane Bowes white, and Mick Poole in the yellow and black helmet colour. And both teams then, Team Mullet on 18 and Team Nielsen on 18, as the riders get off to a good start. This time around, it's Shane Bowes who begins to show the bit of fire that he's produced throughout the season for the races, and 3 in a line there. But it's Jan Anderson who creeps through into second place. So Shane Bowes ahead of Jan Anderson, and Mick Poole bringing up the rear. And it's Mick Poole who's going to hold that third position as we watch Jan Anderson now battling his way, but no catching Shane Bowes in heat number 10. He's got it sewn up in this one. He is well clear. Reading fans will have watched his progress throughout the season with keen interest. A man perhaps who started the year quite shakily has turned out to be a first-class rider. Shane Bowes race leading over Jan Anderson, and Mick Poole in third position. And there's a classic shot then of Bowesy as he gets his leg up down into the top turn, and a good clear turn for him as he's driving all the way. And it's still Jan Anderson. There goes the flag. It is a win for Shane Bowes. Jan Anderson second and Mick Poole in third position.
Pera and I rode in the same team in Sweden when he started, and some years before I finished, so I know him quite well, and I feel ever so sorry for him, very much. And of course I'm coming here to, if I can help him, I want to do it, sure.
Did it hit you hard when he got injured?
Yeah, of course. I mean, all kind of accidents and sadness hits you. You are a human being, and of course not as hard as it had been my boy, but it's a friend, and I feel sorry for him, yeah.
Is it nice to come back to Reading, albeit in a situation where you're riding for an injured rider?
It's nice to be here, but the reason I don't like, of course not. But Reading is a nice place and good crowd tonight.
Well, that distinctive roar of the bikes of yesteryear signals the second of our World Champions race. Anders Michenek, Barry Briggs and Peter Collins in that order as the 3 giants of yesteryear Speedway take to the track again. Well, rather gingerly going around the outside were Briggo and Anders Michenek and Peter Collins. It's looking pretty good. Interesting to see that the machines that they are using from the Barry Briggs stable of Golden Greats all have the dirt deflectors fitted. It was Barry who invented the dirt deflector, but eventually, as you'll remember, was thrown out by Division 1 and Division 2 riders halfway through the season after a little bit of a trial period with them. But they're back in with the dirt deflectors again, and it's great to see the champions of yesteryear roaring around the small beam track. There's 1 lap to go. Anders Michenek, and now a bit of a fire and a bit of attack from Barry Briggs and Peter Collins. Peter Collins there in red in third position. So anything can happen with the Golden Greats again in front of the Reading crowd, and again for Per Jonssona as they get the wheels in line to the checkered flag. There he goes, a win for Anders Michenek. Second is Barry Briggs, and third Peter Collins. No disgrace in that, and we applaud all 3 of them for putting up a sparkling show, especially for Per Jonsson's benefit meeting. One of the highlights of this cavalcade of multi-world champions, the speed sensation, all on this Monday evening at Smallmead. And the fans love to see the former world champions again. They're doing it especially for Per. But back to the meeting proper, and we'll get the next set of riders lining up for heat number 11. Mark Loram, Jeremy Doncaster, Peter Narlin and Sam Ermolenko. Team Ermolenko lead, Team Nielsen, I beg your pardon, leading with 24 over Team Mullet on 22, Team Ermolenko 12, and Team Castagna on 8. So definitely Team Castagna could do with the points in this one as the tapes arise for heat number 11, and straight into the lead goes Peter Narlin. A battle on for second place between Sam Ermolenko and Mark Loram. It's Loram on the inside in the red, with Ermolenko going wide around the outside in yellow and black, but still ahead of the pack is Peter Narlin. Good shot there of the action going on for second place, Mark Loram and Sam Ermolenko. And I'm afraid poor old Jeremy Doncaster struggling again in this outing as we watch Peter Narlin, oh so tidy on a speedway machine and looking extremely tidy around the small mead track tonight. Peter Narlin then race leading, following in his wheel tracks is Mark Loram for second, and Sam Ermolenko, perhaps disturbingly for him, back in third place. 1 lap to go, Peter Narlin race leading, and we have to say pulling away from Mark Loram in second position. So it's Narlin all the way around. He's started to score well. He's really settled into the meeting, good and proper, and a great win for him right now. So there he goes then. Peter Narlin picks up the win, Mark Loram second, and Sam Ermolenko third.
I first became team manager in 1988, and you know, I've known Pera obviously since then. He's just a tremendous rider. I think the best team rider I've ever seen, and I've been watching Reading since 1968 without hardly missing a match. And you know, the team riding aspect of Pera is absolutely brilliant. Over the later years, I think Pera's become sort of less intense himself, and he developed a tremendous relationship with Armando. They've become very good friends, and that's shown in the team spirit in Reading. And as I say, there's always been great fun in the dressing rooms, and it's just been so much of a pleasure to work with, and never turned down an extra ride. Always gone in when I've wanted, and sometimes, moaned a bit when he had to go in at heat 16 all the time, the nominated race, but he was just inspirational in heat 1, and he gave just a lift to the other members of the team when he would go out and just decimate the opposition number 1 on 9 times out of 10, home and away. And we sort of just carried on the match from there, so tremendous rider.
14 tournaments down at Poole, and there was only 3 teams in this one, so it was in fact run as a 3-team tournament. Poole v Reading v Coventry. Reading and Coventry out in this one. Andy Smith and Jorgen Johansson against Per Jonssona and Tony Olsen, heat number 15. And it is the British champion Andy Smith who's made the best start, former world champion Per Jonssona in second place, Tony Olsen in third, with John Jorgensen at the back, but it is Smith that leads away. Jonssona, well, he's trying to close in. The Pirates and Reading drawing on 30 points apiece. Coventry back on 24. And Andy Smith, but he's still holding off Per Jonssona, the Reading number 1, although here he comes on the outside now, switching back to the inner. Really is a very close race indeed, this one. All over Smith's back wheel, but has he got enough drive to find a way past? Here he comes once more on the outside, and it really is very fast speedway action in heat number 15. Smith, can he hold off Jonssona for another lap? Here comes Per on the inside, switching his move, but now he's got to come back round the outside, his last desperate attempt, and is he going to get right on the line? Indeed he does, and well, it really was speedway at its very, very best. Per Jonssona, supreme track craft in heat number 15, beating Andy Smith in the second place, with Tony Olsen getting the third. A heat advantage to the race of the crowd. That shows you what they thought of that one. On to heat number 13 then, and the 2 flags where you can see the strength of the wind flying there in the breeze. Riders coming out in this one. We've got David Mullet and Stevie Schofield out against Per Jonssona and Jorgen Johansson. and this resulted in a 5-1 in heat number 4 with the same 4 riders, so the England riders will be certainly hoping for something a little bit different. Schofield off 1, Johansson off 2, Mullet off 3, and Per Jonssona coming from the outside. Heat number 13 about to get underway, it does so, and this time round with David Mullet's made another lightning start, and he leads his teammate Per Jonssona in 2nd place. Johansson's come through in a 3rd ahead of Stevie Schofield, so it's the 2 Reading racers. They're in opposition here in heat number 13. David Mullet leading his number 1 in 2nd place. Johansson back in 3rd. Stevie Schofield, another last place for him at the moment. But David Mullet is out in front. He really is in a rich vein of form at the moment. He had 2 thirds he started with. He's had 2 race wins since, and he looks like he's heading towards another one. Schofield, well, he's trying to close in on Johansson, but I don't think he's going to do it with a lap to go. David Mullet's still out in front, although Per Jonssona, well, he's gaining on that, coming out of that 4th turn. Is he going to try and make a move as they come up the inside? And well, indeed he does, and he barges David Mullet out of the way. Well, they're certainly not team riding in heat number 13, because Per Jonssona has claimed victory. David Mullet gets 2nd place. Jürgen Johansson back in 3rd. And well, that was a hard piece of riding by Jonssona. Let's take another look at the 2 racers giving it their all on that 4th lap. Well, we can see again as the riders come around to complete the end of the 3rd one, and Jonssona, well, he makes up a lot of ground coming off that 4th turn, only a couple of bike lengths behind, and here he makes a move up the inside. Mullet thought he might come on the outside, but no, he switches back and gets very close to David. So Mullet having to give 2nd best, a 4-2 to the Swedes. Well, it's handshakes all round after that victory for Per, 67.8 his time. And there he is, back in the pits, having a few words with Pinker, who comes out in heat number 14, telling him exactly how he did it. It really was a do-or-die effort by Per Jonssona. David Mullet having a few words with Eric Bucock. Well, at least he can smile. On to heat number 7 then. Chris Louis in red, Paul Hurry in blue, Mark Lorham in white, and Per Jonssona in yellow and black. Per Jonssona, he had a 2nd place first time out. Chris Louis, he was also awarded 2nd, though he was suffering with his engine. Paul Hurry, he had a 3rd place. Heat number 7 gets underway, and it looks as if Louis made a good start from the outside. Is he going to be able to come across? Indeed he does. He leads away from Hurry in 2nd place. Here comes Lorham on the outside of Paul Hurry. Per Jonssona at the back at the moment. Very close race over between these 4. Per Jonssona trying to close in and overtake Lorham, who's got the outside line, and well, he's losing ground. His Mark, he's trying to come back into 3rd spot. Indeed he is, and now taking the inside line on Paul Hurry. True piece of riding this by the King's Lynn rider, but he loses out on the 3rd turn there, locks up too much, and he's now back in last place, and Per Jonssona has come through in a 2nd position. What a good race this is in heat number 7. Chris Louis, he's out in front ahead of Per Jonssona, who's now come through in a 2nd spot. Paul Hurry in 3rd, and Mark Lorham, well, he's giving it a go once more on the outside, although he's locked up and got out a little bit too wide, still trying to close in on Hurry. But it looks as if it's going to be a win for the Ipswich skipper. Indeed it is. He crosses the line ahead of Jonssona in 2nd place, Hurry in 3rd, Lorham an unlucky last place. Some fine action in. So 2 against 1 then. Kelvin Tatum, Per Jonssona and Amanda Castagna. It's going to be tough on the arena. Essex number 1. See if he's equal to it. Heat number 13, the rerun. The referee holding them quite a time, but they're away now. And as they go into the 1st corner, well, it is Per Jonssona who leads the way. Castagna, well, he's drifting wide. And Tatum, well, he's come through into 2nd spot. Per Jonssona getting a little bit of lift coming out of that turn, but he's still in front of Kelvin by about 3 bike lengths. They're extending that as they go down the back straight. Good to see Per back in Division 1 Speedway this year. Mario Castagna, he's looking down at his machine. His engine seems to be slowing. Of course, Per set out the early weeks of the season. And, well, along with Tony Rickardson and Henke Gustafsson, it looked as if who's going to be missing some of the top Swedes, but Willy's come back, and Peter Narling, of course, another rider. Back with Craigly Heath now, could be fitted into the Eastbourne team. But it is Johnson who wins another race. Second place goes to Calvin Tatum, third spot to Amando, 58.6, that was Per's winning time. And 6 points up, 3 races to go.
Heat number 12 now, Dave Mullett, Lee Adams, Hans Nielsen and Greg Hancock. That's the order of packing, the fans marking up their programs, checking out the progressive scores. As I say, it is a 14 tournament tonight, and ahead is Team Nielsen with 27, Team Mullett 24, Team Ermolenko 12 and Team Castagna on 9. Well, Hans Nielsen again with that double spoiler off gate number 3 in white from the outside. It is Dave Mullett. Let's watch them as they make the start. Nielsen is there like a greased lightning. So there he goes, Nielsen ahead of Dave Mullett, and Lee Adams beginning to sneak through now, but still Nielsen over Mullett and Adams. Greg Hancock having a miserable event so far. It doesn't look like he's going to score in this one either. The team Nielsen really streaks ahead, and they are really going for broke. But I have to say, all the riders competing tonight, perhaps some people thought it was just going to be a bit of a show on wheels, but the riders are taking it very seriously. It is all about first-class speedway, and it is all about first-class speedway for a first-class man, Per Jonssona. So Hans Nielsen race leading over Dave Mullett there in second position. Lee Adams, a bit of an attack from him, but not getting anywhere near Dave. He's back in third position is Lee, but Nielsen oh so confident on this race meeting tonight. Distinctive style from him. He announced earlier on in the year that 1994 is to be his final season racing in the United Kingdom. He picks up the win. Second position Dave Mullett, and third for Lee Adams.
Actually, when I first met Per, he's a very inward person, and he didn't really come out of his shell until, I guess it was the year when Reading did the big double, and actually Per did win the world final that year, and it was interesting to watch the transformation from someone who was very inward and very secretive, and someone who was obviously very competitive. It really did help him to socialise with the rest of the team, and he really did try hard that year, and to be, you know, part of a successful side, and we tried hard, and that type of character really shone through, you know, really showed through, and that really stood him in good ground.
night. Looked it too. Second in blue, his partner, Dave Mullen.
Back to the racing now in Heat 13 with Jason Crump, Craig Boyce, Tony Olsen and Peter Carlson. So that's the way it shapes up. Team Nielsen still leading with 27, Team Mullet on 24. The big two giant teams tonight. But this is Heat 13. Let's see what this can throw up as the riders just prepare themselves ready to come down to the line to be called in line by the starting marshal and John Homer, the referee, to release the tapes in a moment. Away they go. And away they charge, that familiar dash into the first turn. It's Tony Olsen and Jason Crump. Jason Crump invincible, certainly in the latter part of this meeting. He steals to glory in the pole position. Second position, Tony Olsen. And Craig Boyce back in third. Peter Carlson struggling a little bit. But we focus our attentions on Jason Crump. He really is getting his act together. Started off well, perhaps a little bit of a struggle for Jason with the second place, but certainly rattling in the wins now. And a good win here will escalate the Team Mullet score to perhaps catching Team Nielsen. We shall have to wait and see. Still a lot of the racing to go and a lot more racing to come on this particular night of nights. So we watch there Tony Olsen, who holds second position. Tony, of course, a long-time servant of Reading, but spent 94 on loan to Swindon, but certainly getting to grips with the major stars of Division 1. Craig Boyce certainly holding on to third position. There goes the checkered flag for the win. That goes to Jason Crump. Second, Tony Olsen, and third is Craig Boyce.
Whatever he did, he just had to win. I can remember when we went go-karting, and I treated it as a fun thing and was skidding round and doing circles, and everybody did. But Pera just had to win, and he even put in a protest to the guy at the go-kart centre, and we were cheering him on and saying, yeah, and winding him up. But he was deadly serious. He just had to win, and we just thought it was great. We just wound him up, because the more we wound him up, the more determined he got. And that is him. Whatever he did, if it's golf, if it's like, playing on go-karts, whatever he did, he just had to do it. That's just him. That's how he was. And he's...
The way that we describe it, but certainly he enjoyed himself there in heat number 2. And to think he almost missed out as well, because the day of the Australian final was in fact his sister's wedding. But there you are. On to heat number 3 we go, and we've got Zdeněk Tisar riding in red, Richard Knight in blue, Pera Jonssona in white, and Jimmy Nielsen in yellow and black. So Tisar, as we say in here, not really to make up numbers, but not expected to trouble some of the big boys later on. Richard Knight on his debut world final. As we said earlier on, he's got Michael Lee in his part of the pits. And what better man to help you than the former world champion of 1980, Michael, who himself is trying to make a comeback. Hopefully next year we'll be seeing Michael back in action. So we'll look across the line. It's going to have Tisar starting off from the inside with Knight off 2. Pera Jonssona, he's got to be a bit of a danger man tonight. He's 3. And Jimmy Nielsen on the outside. So there'll be no team riding from the Swedes in this particular race. Every single man for himself. And look at that, just from the outside, Jimmy Nielsen cuts across. That really was a ruthless piece of riding from the Swede. And as we say, certainly nothing friendly about the action going on the track right now. So it's Nielsen in front, Pera Jonssona in second place. And these two Swedes, both of them, will be looking to the 1991 final. Of course, that takes place in Gothenburg. And certainly there'll be no lack of home track advantage for those two on that night. But it's Jimmy Nielsen showing the form. In fact, just the other night, he scored a 15-point maximum over at Kings Lynn on Bank Holiday Monday. He was in flying form too, and that form seems to be continuing here at Bradford tonight. So he's in front. He's got Pera Jonssona literally breathing down his neck. Jonssona moving wide now. You can see there's plenty of dirt for him. As we enter the final lap, Jonssona just getting rid of the tear-offs. He's almost following in the tyre tracks now of Jimmy Nielsen. He really has got so much closer. At one stage we thought it was going to be so easy. Nielsen moves wide. Jonsson's going to slip through and take advantage of that. And an excellent manoeuvre from Pera Jonssona. That was superb speedway. And all credit to the track preparation here at Bradford to allow racing like that. When Jimmy Nielsen was counting the 3 points in the bag, it was Pera Jonssona who came bouncing back. And that was speedway at its finest. So Jonssona goes back to the pitch. We get a chance to look at that again. You can see Jimmy Nielsen now. He's got this one in full control. Per Jonssona is watching him. He must have seen earlier on that Nielsen had tended to drift off the line. He sees the gap. He goes through for it in there like a shot and wins by about a bite length. Excellent stuff from Per Jonssona.
When Per turned back to Reading races in 1990, he became world champion. And the meeting was at Bradford. Me and Per actually met in the first race. I was competing in the same meeting, and I made a start, and I was leading for 4.5 laps and coming up to the finishing line. Per did as usual, went wide and cut across and beat me by a wheel length coming over the line, and with that point probably turned out to become a world champion for him, because he was a good race, and he obviously put him forward for the next few races, and you know, that's what made him world champion.
So Per Jonssona's 3 world finals, born in 1966, and again one of the Swedish hopefuls, a very unusual angle, and that really is perhaps one of the most unusual shots we have seen of a speedway rider. Just gets a cutout on, ready to do battle in his home country of Sweden.
Who's going to win the title tonight?
Per Jonssona.
Well, he says it all, he feels confident, and if that first ride's anything to go by, then I wouldn't be at all surprised. Bit of a quiet man, though. Certainly different to world champions that we've seen in the past, but should he be lucky enough to get on the rostrum tonight, no doubt he'll be a fine ambassador for Swedish Speedway. Well, you can see that that certainly wasn't a start done under the British League formula, as there was plenty of movement at the gate. But Per Jonssona, bit of a starter, although on that occasion he did it the hard way, and he's got 3 points in the bag from his first race in the world final. And of course Hans Nielsen, the current world champion. Well, let's face it, you wouldn't expect anything else. We get a chance to see, goodness, 3 of the race winners here in heats number 5. From the inside it's going to be Gustafsson. Well, we've seen how impressive he can be from the start. He's in red coloured helmet, the current world champion and winner of heat number 1. That's Hans Nielsen, he's in blue. The wild man who could be a bit of a spoiler if he gets in front, that is Roman Matuszek. He's in white off 3, and Per Jonssona from Sweden on the outside in yellow and black. So really it is all about making a start, although as I said before, the track tonight is the best we've ever seen it at Bradford. It is absolutely superb. The atmosphere is first class as well, and the reason for that pole down in the middle is in case we get a little bit of a breeze, it can put the riders off a bit if the tapes move. So hence the reason that that's there, just to try and stop any distractions. As you can imagine, the tension down at the start line, what goes through these riders' minds at this time, well, doesn't bear thinking about. So 3 out of the 4 riders with a genuine chance of doing a business for us here in heat number 5, and unfortunately, as far as Henrik Gustafsson's concerned, he is going nowhere. And the starting gate in dire need of some WD-40, we suspect. So Henrik's thinking, I wonder if this is an English custom. Don't worry, Henka, that's not a standard thing. So the WD-40 duly administered as we try again for heat number 5. And certainly we hope that that hasn't put Gustafsson off. Although he seems the kind of character that precious little would upset him, really. So the concentration, you can see it there at the moment. So Gustafsson didn't get a chance to leave the start that time round. We wish him a bit better luck here as we try again for heat number 5. All eyes as well on Nielsen, who is a notoriously fast starter. In fact, it looks like Gustafsson's in there in front. It's Nielsen who's had a bit of a knock. Here comes Per Jonssona on the outside. So it's a Sweden 1-2 with the Dane in 3rd place, and the first shocker of the night as we see Per Jonssona going out in front, Gustafsson in 2nd place, and Hans Nielsen relegated into 3rd. And it's so rare that we see the world champion anywhere else except at the front of the race. We've seen just how grippy the track is. There's plenty of chance for the riders to come by. But what on earth can Hans Nielsen do now? That is the rider Per Jonssona that we're looking at from Sweden. He did it the hard way first time round. He didn't make the best of starts there. He's got Gustafsson in 2nd place. 3rd place is Hans Nielsen. The crowd here going absolutely crazy. They cannot believe what they're seeing. And let's be honest about it, We knew that Per Jonssona was going to be a danger, but we didn't think that Gustafsson was going to be able to hold on for that second place. Nielsen now trying the outside run. Is he going to be able to do it? Not at the very end. So, Per Jonssona, 2 rides and 2 wins for the Super Swede. Henke Gustafsson in second place, and a third for the world champion Hans Nielsen. So we can but wonder what kind of effect is that going to have on Nielsen. He's experienced enough to know that the chances of this meeting be won on a maximum are pretty unlikely, and it's been won on 13 points before. But Per Jonssona, he must be fairly happy. As he sits there on 6 points, we can look at the start again. Gustafsson moves over. Now, it does appear as if Nielsen gets caught up. Seems like his footrest gets caught with Per Jonsson's front wheel. So the first surprise really of the night. The Swedish fans, they are delighted right now. You can see them celebrating already. Heat number 11, and certainly for 2 of the riders, they are well and truly in contention. Rick Miller from the inside, Per Jonssona off 2, Zoltan Adorian 3, and Tony Kasper on the outside. And it is a good one from the inside for Miller. And the American, who has got a whole, I'd say 3, maybe 4 coachloads of Coventry fans here cheering him on tonight, and a fair few waving the stars and stripes flag from America. He's another one that is capable of causing a few surprises. Second place is Per Jonssona, and Jonssona, of course, unbeaten at this stage so far. He's had 2 rides and 2 wins, but Rick Miller is putting paid to any chance of him going through to gain maximum points. So you can see Miller, he's got to watch out. He's leaving a bit of a gap now, and we watch for Per Jonssona. You only need to leave a couple of inches, and Jonssona will go through there. He goes very wide, trying to get into the dirt. Hasn't really gained any ground. The way this track is set up tonight, there's enough dirt to pass absolutely anywhere. So Rick Miller is riding such a good line, but here comes Per Jonssona down the inside. It's close, but not quite close enough, as Rick Miller holds on to the action, holds on to the win, and you could say he is a pretty happy man after that. So everybody in Wiltshire, and of course Moran. That is Todd Wiltshire now, just practicing his starts. He's kept ice cool all night. He's not let the pressure get to him, and of course that's the kind of temperament you need to win a world final. As for Martin Dugard, well, of course he'll be putting himself about here too. The big 3 in heat number 16 of this 1990 World Speedway Final from Bradford. The crowd have certainly had their money's worth so far, and well, many people consider Bradford to be a little bit unfashionable, but there's been nothing unfashionable about the racing or the atmosphere, and in fact the whole presentation doing the world of good for British Speedway as a whole. And who knows, we might even be able to get back on the regular rota of World Championship events here in this country. Certainly since the bygone days of Wembley almost every year when the World Championship first started, England seemed to get less and less chance at the World Final. So hopefully this has got a long way to helping with that. So from the inside then, it's Jonssona, Todd Wiltshire off 2, Martin Dugard 3, Sean Moran on the outside. 2 riders have only dropped 1 point. That's Jonssona and Wiltshire, and of course Moran, he's only dropped 2. So the winner of this, could we be looking at the 1990 champion? All should be revealed in just over 1 minute from now. And the rider's getting very, very impatient at the start, but it's a good one for Per Jonssona. So Jonssona has really made a flyer. We watch for Sean Moran, and a clever switch from Moran as he goes down the inside, and the crowd loving every minute of that. Todd Wiltshire, he has moved into second place, but here comes Per Jonssona. Quite amazing piece of overtaking from Sean Moran, and there goes Jonssona down onto the inside now. What can Shuey do about that? He comes back. This is by far the best race of the final itself. We've got Shuey, who's got the lead again. Goodness knows how many times this race has changed hands now. Moran in front, Per Jonssona in second place. Third place for Todd Wiltshire. Todd seeing his chance of a world crown slipping away, but it is all the action up at the front, and the American seems to now have full control of this particular race. Into the final lap, it's still Moran in front. Per Jonssona's got to make a desperate effort now. You can see he gets his wheels in line. He's getting very close to Moran. Into the final couple of turns we go. Shuey just seems to have that extra bit of speed, and as they take the checkered flag, it is Moran who wins it. Second place for Per Jonssona, and a third for Todd Wiltshire. Sean Moran and Per Jonssona riding the race of their lives and giving us plenty of excellent entertainment in Heat 16. So we'll look at that again from the back, and you can see really that it was Per Jonssona who made the quickest of the starts. Todd Wiltshire looked quite dangerous as well, but watch for Sean Moran. He seems to just figure out exactly what moves Johnsson's going to make. He wheels that bike on. It was just, you can see him pulling the front wheel up. We'll look now as Jonssona sees that Moran has tended to drift a little bit wide. He's almost on mid-corner. There he goes, down onto the inside. And Moran thinks, oh dear, we better get ourselves back in action again. And he does almost a carbon copy maneuver on Per Jonssona. So both of these riders, true world-class performers. To say you don't get much passing at this level of competition, but that has been proven as not strictly true. Again, we can look at that from a different angle. Jonssona certainly making the ideal start. He was a full bike length going into the first couple of turns, but Sean Moran sits mid-track, gets those wheels in line, gets plenty of grip, and look at that, that is a clever switch. And in fact, that didn't really help Todd Wiltshire too much. But at the final run-in, Sean Moran certainly deserved his win in heat number 16, and the World Championship final is still wide open. But could we be looking at the first American to win the World Crown since Bruce Penhall did it way back in 1982? One race left to go for Shuey, and all will be revealed on that. And of course, Per Jonsson's still not out of contention either. He's only dropped a couple of points as well tonight. But the pair of them giving us some classic speedway in heat number 16. Because an additional one should a run-off be necessary. But we've been treated to some cracking speedway. We've had some drama, we've had some fun and games. Although not as dramatic as some of the meetings that we had in the early 80s. However, the racing has certainly kept us all on our toes. So with 10 points, Per Jonssona knows it's a win or nothing. Although a second place would give him a chance for a rostrum, but he is out. He's determined to win this one. His main rival, of course, is Kelvin Tatum, but you've got to watch out too for Armando Castagna. He proved himself to be a spoiler when he won that race earlier on. So obviously a fair amount of tension, and the ride is taking just a little bit longer to settle down than normal. So Jonssona has the favoured inside gate position, and certainly in the second part of this meeting, gate number 1 has produced plenty of wins. So obviously we watch for Per Jonssona, we watch out too for Kelvin Tatum. The concentration on Jonssona as he's the first one to drop the clutch for sure. He goes into the inside and he's built up a fine lead. It is Armando Castagna, the Italian, in second place, and Ronnie Curry holding out Kelvin Tatum, but Tatum now moving into third place. But it is the super Swede, Per Jonssona. The Swedish contingent here at Bradford are going absolutely crazy. They are leaping up and down with excitement because they know if it stays like this, they're in with a chance of having Sweden's first world champion since, well, I think since Anders Michenek won it way back in the 70s. Jonssona in front, Armando Castagna in second place, and third is Kelvin Tatum. A bitterly disappointing night for Kelvin. And this is not one of the world finals that he'll want to look back on with much affection. But it's a different story for Per Jonssona. He is out in front. He has 3 points well within his sights. He's the world crown within his sights as well. He has to have a run-off now with Sean Moran. So we have an additional race to come as Per Jonssona wins heat number 18. Second place Armando Castagna, and a third for Kelvin Tatum. But Jonssona, the pressure might have been on, but it did not show as he came up with a good save. But watch the start from the back. And Per, we said he was off the favoured inside gate. He was definitely the first to drop the clutch. And really, that was the end of it. His challenge coming from Armando Castagna as opposed to Kelvin Tatum. For Tatum, I suppose he knew his challenge was pretty well gone, and that was it. But for Per Jonssona, his hopes well and truly alive as we now have to wait for an extra race to determine who's going to be the world champion of 1990. And I don't think we could have scripted a better finish, because the whole meeting in doubt until the very end. So now the tension is on as we're looking at pits. The riders prepare for this runoff. You can see Sean Moran now. He's got a little bevy of bodyguards right there. This is quite something. It's more like American football or a big boxing tournament than speedway, but everybody keeping out of the way of Sean Moran. £250,000 I reckon that the world crown is worth as he leaves the pits now. And also Per Jonssona from Sweden. Anders Michanek was the last world champion to come from Sweden. He is here tonight. And no doubt he is probably feeling the tension, but listen to that crowd now. As Jonssona goes up first, Sean Moran is the one who's set to join him. So it's Jonssona who's wearing the red colour helmet. He goes off the inside. Moran is in white. And the 4 most important laps in the respective careers of Sweden's Per Jonssona and America's Sean Moran. And as we say, such a lot of money, the prestige. And of course, on the continent, the world champion can command some incredible sums of money. So the crowd really getting behind it. As we say, I mean, Sean Moran, the people's choice for the world championship tonight. The last time we had an American, of course, was Bruce Penhall. He won in 1981 and 1982. Practice start there from Per Jonssona. The tension is incredible. The atmosphere here at Bradford Electric. And we should be in for 4 scintillating laps of Speedway at its finest. We certainly had a world final to remember. And the one that has gone down has been the night of the spoilers, the night of the underdogs perhaps. And let's be perfectly honest, nobody would have expected to see Per Jonssona up here fighting for the world crown, let alone a rostrum place. The starting marshal is not happy. He wants Jonssona to move over a little bit. And all this is just adding to the tension now. And the pressure is just incredible for these 2 riders. Sean Moran, very cool. He's got the bike on the stand. He's just letting the back wheel spin. Lets Jonssona get himself organised. Looks like we're ready. And the most important start in the respective careers of Jonssona and Moran. It's Jonssona who has got out the gate in front. And what can Sean Moran do now? He's got to make his move quickly because Per Jonssona is on such fast motors. Tuned tonight by Sweden's Jan Andersson, his teammate from Reading, of course. But it is Per Jonssona in front, and these are going to be the longest laps in his career so far. Every single thing counting. He'll be listening for every rattle of the chains. He'll be praying that the bike keeps on going. Sean Moran, you can see the distance between the 2. There is a fair gap between the pair of them. And we've seen already tonight that when Per Jonssona hits the front, he is so quick. He's pulling away now from Shuey. And although it's disappointing for Moran, he can be very, very happy with the way that the meeting's gone to become number 2 in the world in front of such a big crowd here at Bradford. There's so many people shouting and cheering on for him. But indeed, it looks like we're going to have a new world champion from Sweden, Per Jonssona. The Swedes in the stadium are going absolutely crazy now. He has done it. Per Jonssona is the 1990 world champion, and listen to that crowd roar. We can't believe it. He's such a quiet, he's really so laid back. He's not one of the characters that you'd expect to be shouting his mouth off and really shooting from the rooftops. But tonight, he is the world speedway champion. Sweden celebrates, Per Jonssona celebrates, the Reading team, of course. What a night it's been for them. They get him as the world champion, they get Todd Wiltshire as the world number 3. And altogether, we have had a world final of tremendous proportions. It has been the finest one since 1981. We get a chance once again to see the start, and that was really where it was all over. Shuey knew that he had to make the gate in this particular one. But look at that. He had missed the start. Per Jonssona making no mistakes whatsoever. Shuts the door on it. Shuey trying to squeeze away. You can see this front wheel was actually on the inside there as well. But from that moment on, the world final was in the hands of Per Jonssona. And the scenes in the pits, look at that. His whole little entourage around them. Henrik Gustafsson, he's gone in there as well. And altogether, it has been quite some night for Sweden. So it makes you wonder, in fact, it probably hasn't sunk in at all that he's the world champion. As I say, he's such an unassuming character. And it does make you wonder just what it's going to be like for him being world champion. We get a chance to see it again. And from the start, once again, it was Per Jonssona making no mistakes. And for Sean Moran, this is a moment where the world crown was won and lost. However, he can be pretty happy that he's taken a second place in the world title tonight. So the crowd there, one or two of them finding it perhaps a little bit hard to believe, but not these people. The Swedes have come over. They were confident of getting a good result tonight, and they've got it too.
That's great.
Pat, you were at Bradford in 1990 when Per picked up the honours.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. We knew he'd win. We went up, my husband came with me, my father, Jan Anderson, and we just knew he'd win. And I think it was his determination that won that meeting. His father was stood with us as he went into the runoff with Sean Moran, and I don't think anybody could believe it, but there again, we couldn't believe he could lose. And he did actually come and say to us that Sean Moran went to him and said, one of us is going to get at least the silver medal. And he said at that time, I knew then that the gold medal was mine because Sean was ready to accept silver and I wasn't.
And I bet that he can't believe it either. The fans are here from all over the world. They knew that Toddy had the capability of doing something very special tonight, and certainly hasn't let them down by any means. Per Jonssona is the new world champion. Look at the smile on his face. He just cannot get rid of it at all. And onto the rostrum we go. We've got Todd Wiltshire going up there first. He is the world number 3. So he picks up his check, he picks up the trophy, and of course I would imagine he's going to pick up a fair few open bookings there as well this year. And a bunch of flowers too. Alan Ham, Bradford co-promoter, and one of the people responsible for putting such a fine show on here tonight at Bradford. He's up there as well. And Todd Wiltshire, he takes the honours as a world number 3. There goes Sean Moran, and well, that's an interesting place to have a flag. He's pretty happy. He's got a reputation for being a bit happy-go-lucky, actually, but he certainly had the pressure on him towards the end. So he's pretty happy too. Second place in the world, a check, the flowers, and all the other goodies that go with it. And again, he could expect even more bookings on the continent in the season to come. So we expected Moran to do well. Many people tipping Todd Wiltshire as an outsider, but the form book has been turned well and truly upside down tonight by the performance shown from the winner of the 1990 World Individual Final here at Bradford. It is, of course, from Sweden. We're talking about Per Jonssona, who is just about ready to come up there and take the first prize. And certainly the money that he's going to be able to command now, well, we estimate around about £250,000. There you are, just look at the smile on his face. He is delighted, he can't believe it. So for Per Jonssona in Sweden, the moment that they've all been dreaming of, the world title, he takes that trophy, and what a feeling that's got to be. And the fireworks explode, the confetti cannon there as well. And there you have it. Per Jonssona wins the World Speedway Final with 13 points. Sean Moran in second place with 13. Todd Wiltshire finishes in third with 12.
One of the funny duties that I had to do on the World Speedway Final back in 1990 was to talk to the riders. It sounds funny because that's what I do for a living, talk to Speedway riders. But when a World Final comes to town, riders' attitudes changes dramatically. All of a sudden, it's about work. It's about hard work to be the best on the night. And I'd spent the early part of the meeting chatting away to various riders who were some of the hotshot favourites to be the world champion on that night. And it included an interview with Per Jonssona, who spoke very fluently about how he felt about winning races at Bradford, how he rode the track, how he saw the competition, what he thought of the other riders who were up against him. We brought him out for that runoff for the actual runoff final with Sean Moran. And it was Per's race, as we all know. We stood and watched and marvelled. And I don't think it sank into Per until we brought him onto the rostrum, where we actually said, ladies and gentlemen, here is the new World Speedway champion from Sweden, Per Jonssona. And all of a sudden it dawned on him, and I think the grin went from ear to ear. The sad knock-on effect was that he went into the press gallery, and the World Speedway press were there waiting for him to ask those questions that they ask so well. And poor old Per just really couldn't answer them. He was stuck for words. I think it was the emotion of the evening which had sunk into him. He was the world champion, a dream come true. Everything he'd worked for absolutely happened for him. And I remember asking him later, I was lucky enough to be stopping in the same hotel, and we had a couple of drinks and a few sandwiches after the event. And he was saying to me, when they were asking the questions, I had to listen to the questions in English, think about them, translate them into Swedish,
think of my answer in Swedish and translate it back to English. By the time I'd done that, they'd moved on to the next question. So all I could say was, I am pleased to win. I hope I've proved to be a good rider. I am pleased to win. Which might have sounded a bit strange to the world's press, but it didn't sound strange to anybody who really knew him. A great rider, a terrific win in Bradford, and apart from the accident, I am convinced that he would have gone on to be a multi-world champion.
Away we go then with Heat 14, Tony Ricketson, the reigning world champion, Billy Hamill, Brian Anderson and Mikael Karlsson. The way it lines up, we'll bring the riders down to the line. See what they make of this. Well, of course, still close run between Team Nielsen and Team Mullet. Just a couple of points separate those two teams. Team Nielsen with 29, Team Mullet with 27. The other two teams, I have to say, struggling somewhat and look a little bit out of the frame for the championship honours tonight. And away we go, Heat 14, that's Tony Ricketson there in red. Watch for him, Brian Anderson in white. And a good start there from Billy Hamill in blue. And it leaves Mikael Karlsson at the back. But it's Brian Anderson holding the advantage over second place man Billy Hamill. And the world champion, Tony Ricketson, beginning to struggle for this one. Oh, what a lift there for Billy Hamill. And Tony Ricketson seizes his chance and careers his way through. You cannot afford to make a mistake in first-class speedway, and you certainly can't afford to make a mistake in this very special meeting. Brian Anderson then with Tony Ricketson alongside him. It's shoulder-to-shoulder stuff. It's elbow-to-elbow, but Tony Ricketson getting the advantage over the former world under-21 champion Brian Anderson. Anderson then back to second place. And it's all about Tony Ricketson, a true champion, and was certainly underlining that fact and proving it tonight at Small Mead. He made a disastrous start, but boy, oh boy, did he make up for lost ground. So Tony Ricketson race leading. Good result in this one is going to help that team tremendously. There goes the flag. Ricketson picks up the win, Anderson second, and Mikael Karlsson in third position. So that spaces it out. Team Mullet now holding that to 1 point deficit. Team Nielsen 31, Team Mullet on 30. That's the way it went for Heat 14. A little bit of superb action now coming up with the former 6-times world champion Ivan Major, as Ivan plays his own tribute to Per Jonssona.
Obviously a very special meeting. You're going to get back on a bike again. Everybody's turned out in force to Per Jonssona.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got asked to do this, and it's quite an honour really to get asked, but I wasn't that keen on riding, but I am going to ride, and I mean, Per was a good guy, good world champion, always clean cut, always presented himself well and taught well, and he tried very hard. I actually didn't know him that well. I got to know him more when the Swedish tour was in Australia a few years ago than I actually even did over here in England. So most of his career here, I've lived in Australia.
In terms of speedway, obviously everybody rallies round, don't they, at times like this?
Yeah, it's a really hard game, and but it has sort of quite a family. Quite a family atmosphere to it, and as you say, everyone rallies around. So,
what are you looking for in your particular exercise then? I mean, you're just going to go around on your own, aren't you?
Well, I'm riding on this bike. I'm riding one of Per's bikes. Really, just as a tribute to Per. How that came about, we were trying to figure out what to do. I didn't really want to ride match races on 2-valve Jawas, and nobody else wanted to ride match races with me on 4-valves. And I haven't ridden, well, in the last 10 years I rode on Speedway at Mildura for Phil Crump, a couple of match races about 4 or 5 years ago, and I've done a Golden Greats in Poland a couple of years ago. But other than that, I haven't done anything, and I think this track here is it's always patchy, so it's not really a good track to race for us when you haven't ridden for a long while. And if you try to race hard and put on a good show, I just think someone end up getting hurt.
And you're quite happy just to poodle around for 4 laps on your own?
Well, I don't know how fast I'll poodle, but I mean, the idea of riding Per's bikes is when Bob Bradford called me, he said to me that Jan Anderson was going to ride one of them. So I said, well, why don't I ride one? It's quite a good publicity thing that I'm going to actually ride his bike. But at the moment having trouble reaching the ground when I sit on the seat.
Standing over arriving in the pits, it's great to see him here, it's been to have him turning the wheel again. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Major! Wherever you go, Ivan, you always get a great reception. It's wonderful to see you doing your own tribute.
Well, either I'm getting old or those corners are getting sharper.
Corners are getting sharper, Ivan.
Well, Bob Redford called me in Australia about 3 weeks ago and asked me if I'd do this, and really I didn't want to race with people, and we got talking about one or two things, and he said that Jan was coming to ride one of the Pierce bikes, so I thought, well, I'll have a ride anyway.
Yeah, great.
I mean, I haven't got too much to say really about Pera. Pera started his British career, you know, around about, I had last season in Exeter just doing the home meetings, and I really got to know him more when he came over to Australia with the Swedish team, and that whole team went very good. I think they all had respect for Bo Wyram, and they tried very hard. I saw Pera in the practice at Brisbane, and he said to me that he wanted to be a good world champion and he wanted to try hard. And he did really, I mean, he went to tracks he'd never seen before, about 16 and 17 all the time. So I thought it was very good, so I'm happy to come here and do this.
Well, you spotted him from an early day there. Hang on. You finished yet? It's not very often we get him here. You spotted him early, he went on to win that 1990 World Championship, Ivan. That must have been pleasing for you, having spotted him.
Yeah, it's very difficult, you know. I had quite a long career, and I was in a lot of world finals from 3 or 4 different eras, and I sort of always made a practice of looking at riders coming through, and you know, everyone's got their favourites and so on, but there's some special things you see in people that you think they can be world champ, and others that you think can be, you know, really good internationals, and that's not really in speedway. I've studied quite a bit of it in other sports. And, you know, right from the start, Pera was one of the people that you could see was something good was going to happen after that. You know, and the finish off with World Championship and Plus. So, in that respect, he had a very, very good career.
Well, Ivan, we've got to say thank you very much for being with us. I hope you've enjoyed that 4 laps.
Oh, I don't want 12 more tonight, I can tell you that.
You don't want 2 on the shot. Ladies and gentlemen, trick time! A world champion! Bit of a busy time to do balancing the different sound levels, because I know, as he says, I speak very loudly. Per doesn't, as I know of old. But Per, what heck of a meeting for you tonight.
Yeah, it's so nice to see all these people turning up, and so hard for me to describe the feeling to see you all here, and I'd just like to thank you for all the letters and everything, and for turning up tonight, and I wish it would be like this every Monday. Not only for me, but for everyone, and it's hard to describe everything, but I mean the riders, the supporters, the everyone that's been doing this to get this meeting done, and just like to thank everyone for being here.
Well, I'm sure everybody wants to thank you, Per, for being Per Jonssona.
Yeah, it's sort of, when you ride, you don't sort of realize so much about how everyone is behind you, and that now I sort of see when everyone's behind you, it's, I mean, everyone, all of you are out there, it's like a big family, and we're all out there to sort of give you as much as we can, what we can do out there, and I just wish I could have been out on the track instead tonight.
It's a little bit cold out there, Per, and nobody in the stadium wants you to get cold.
No, but it's a good meeting, and I hope everyone is enjoying themselves. And just like to thank you all for being here tonight. It's a privilege to sort of be here, and it's so hard to describe the feelings, but I'd just like to thank you all for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Per Jonssona. Thanks, Per. Okay. Good man. Good man. That was hot. Good man.
Heat 15 with Dave Mullett, Jeremy Doncaster, Brian Anderson and Peter Carlson, the brother of Mikael Carlson. Well, let's see how they fare in this one, still leading the advantage, as I say. Team Nielsen with 31, Team Mullett with 30, Team Malenko with 13, and Team Castagna just with 10 points. So it's Heat 15, perhaps a little bit of catching up for Team Malenko and Team Castagna. Who can tell? We won't know that until the race is over, but there's a great shot of the riders. Brian Anderson there in white, next to him Dave Mullett in red. Can it be one of these two who makes the break as they charge? Well, in fact, it's a good start for Dave Mullett and Peter Carlson. Ooh, Peter Carlson seizing an opportunity to go under Dave Mullett there, and that's perhaps a bit of a surprise for everyone here tonight, and it's probably a big surprise for Dave Mullett as well. And now Brian Anderson starts the attack in white. So as we look, Peter Carlson, he is race leading over Dave Mullett and Brian Anderson as the race careers on. It's Dave Mullett there in red, trying to track down as many inches or meters as he can ahead of the race leader, Peter Carlson. Carlson leading over Mullett, and Brian Anderson back for third position. Well, we said that the progressive score does count for the team part of the event. There also are two semi-finals and a final individually. The top two scorers of each team, and some tremendous flights all over the world as the main prizes for that. But it's a team event that we're focusing on, Heat 15, as the flag falls on the race winner, Peter Carlson, over Dave Mullett and Brian Anderson.
Let's make plenty of noise, because here it comes, ladies and gentlemen, the door opens, and we welcome back to Clearly, the World Speedway Champions. Many thanks as always to British Airways for providing us with the transport. Ladies and gentlemen, the media, the mass media from the world of press are with us tonight. TVS are covering this meeting. The Speedway Mail, of course, the Speedway Star are here with Focus. And TVS will be on parade tomorrow night on their news programme with this gentleman who's with us now. Hook and Parade and Tim England, who is the Regional Director of Ian Cook, is with us tonight as well. Tim, welcome along to Stormy Stadium, no doubt a great moment for you. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the 1990 World Individual Speedway Champion, Pera Jonssona! Well, it's a big moment for this gentleman. Let's have a quick word with him before tonight's battle. 9 days ago, Pera, it was the World Final. What's it feel like?
Great.
Absolutely great, is it?
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Is it? No, we all know you're capable of doing it, but when did it really sink in that Pera Jonssona could be world champion? What heat?
Well, it hasn't sunk in yet.
Still there, is it? Anyway, it's going to be a great feeling for you. We won't hold you up too long because obviously tonight's meeting is very important, but obviously, what about the reception these fans have given you tonight?
It's great. I mean, it's always a great feeling when you get all the crowd shouting at you, and thank you all for cheering me on as well at the World Final.
There you go. See, does recognise it. One thing we have to mention, Pera, is that World Final, and the crowd from Sweden and the crowd from Reading. You noticed that, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm really pleased for you all, so thank you.
And what about the helicopter ride?
It's nice, the first time, and nice feeling.
Was it good? Was it? Are we done your parade? Yeah. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, the 1990 World Individual Speedway Champion, Pera Jonssona! Congratulations, Pera. Congratulations.
It's back to the racing now, and heat number 16 with Mark Loram in red, Lee Adams blue, Tony Olsen in white, and Mikael Karlsson in yellow and black. And both teams, Team Mullet and Team Nielsen, on 32 points. The big guns are firing, and what a beautiful start there for Mark Loram in red. What a battle going on for second place between Mikael Karlsson and Tony Olsen. It's Lee Adams at the back at the moment, but look at this, look at this. Oh, a little bit of superb speedway action there as Tony Olsen and Mikael Karlsson battle it out for second place. It's Loram leading. There he is in red, really not putting a wheel wrong in this race. Mark, of course, a true blue England international and loves race winning. Is that going to be a dream come true in this race? You look at Mikael Karlsson and Tony Olsen, and Lee Adams, well, way adrift on contention for heat 16. Mark Loram then race leading. It's Mikael Karlsson in second place, Tony Olsen third with 1 lap to go for heat number 16. This is going to give, if it holds this way, the advantage to Team Mullet. And I have to say that the team has been struggling earlier on, but really pulled up the great guns towards the latter part of the racing. There goes your race winner, Mark Loram, who picks up the win over Mikael Karlsson, and Tony Olsen back for third.
Okay, Jeremy, this motor. Jim, hold that.
line, please. The girl who brought the cake down the line straight away. Well, Per, you've won the World Final. It's now the League Championship medal, the Cup Winners' medal. What a season for you, eh?
It's great. I mean, it's too bad that we had that when everything went dark at Reading when I had Oxford for the Gold Cup. So it would have been nice if we could have won that as well.
I was going to say, since it would indeed, wouldn't it? Has it been hard to sink in exactly what's happened to you in the last couple of months up here?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I couldn't believe this in the beginning of the season, though. I mean, everything has just gone our way, and we're a good team and like a good team spirit and that, and we push each other and that every meeting and that. So it's been great.
All those people out there, Per, have waited behind to hear your views tonight. What about a special mention for them? All the fans?
Well, they've been great all season and that, and I'm very pleased, and I hope to be here next year as well to cheer us on. I think we're going to try to defend it next year.
There you go, the interviews of Per Jonssona there. Now what about next week? It's the final week here where we're going to have a bit of fun and games and perhaps one or two drinks afterwards in the bar just to relax after a hard season?
Maybe.
Do you think that might be, yes?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the smile on his face says it all. He's now got the League Winners' Medal, the Cup Winners' Medal, and of course, the World Individual Speedway Crown, Per Jonssona! Right you are. We tried to get him out a little bit earlier for a few words, but he was called back into a...
Spanners for the winning team, and the helmet for the top scoring reserve. That's going to be...
We march along in the closing stages of this 4-team tournament. Heat 17, Jason Crump, Billy Hamill, Peter Narlin and Greg Hancock. And 1 point separates Team Millett, who have 37 points, over Team Nielsen on 36. Well, that's a close bit of racing action that we're witnessing at Smallmead this evening. Heat 17, with the riders going to line up with Peter Narlin on the inside, gate number 1. And it's Jason Crump off gate number 2. Out of gate number 3 is Greg Hancock. And that leaves, of course, Billy Hamill from the outside, gate number 4. All the riders looking for points. Let's watch them in true style now as they lighten their way into that first turn. And what a brilliant start for Peter Narlin, ahead of Jason Crump. And Greg Hancock now beginning to show in third position. But Peter Narlin has got it sewn up at the moment. Jason Crump, who will never give up, tries a very, very wide line. Perhaps a little bit disastrously there. Obviously looking for the dirt out mid-track, but not really finding it because it's still Peter Narlin race leading over Jason Crump. Great action shot there of young Crumpy with the Pool Pirates. They look certain to be the British League Division 1 champions for 1994, but still 1 or 2 matches to go after this benefit meeting, which is riding in. Well, let's not take it away from Peter Narlin, great campaigner, great personal friend of Per Jonssona, and certainly turning a pretty smart wheel around Smallmead this evening. Peter Narlin then race leading with Jason Crump there in second position in the red helmet, and Greg Hancock in third position. Billy Hamill, although making a reasonable start, I'm afraid, way adrift and bringing up the rear at the moment. But we watch them as we focus our attentions on the race winner being Peter Narlin, second Jason Crump, and third Greg Hancock.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and they were all with me. So it was good, was it?
Why not just pick up a plate and nibble? You do that. Don't wait. Don't stand on ceremony. It's all there. You know. Just help yourselves and join in.
It's good.
I think it is, isn't it?
Try it.
Makes your tummy stick out.
Tummy stick out.
Did you like that? Was it comfortable in the chair? Was it nice and comfortable? Would I have a little sleep, would you?
Do you sit in that one every time you have meetings and that, or?
That's the mayor's chair.
Yeah.
Nice, isn't it? It's got the arms of Reading up there,
oh, yeah.
Which is the same as that over there,
oh, yeah.
Which is the same as that on there. They're all the same.
What's all these names? Is it
past mayors?
Past mayors.
Yeah, there's all 17 on there.
That's the optimum size of the chain. It gets too long otherwise. So each past mare is on the chain for 17 years. You come on, when you're finished, you come on here as the new past mare. You basically go around there, and after 17 years you're here. So you're kicked out then. But then.
What's the point of having a top class inside?
It's me, yours there.
Be a man. Be a man. Is it up there, so where's the bin? Too much plastic to bin. Come on, Pera. Come on.
Get out of the way. You want to have a picture as well?
Not necessarily.
No.
Stand over it. Oh, yeah.
We need both hands to hold on.
Green light, green light.
You stop being through without a lid.
Oh, the sun's nice there.
Where's the post-it?
Friendly. I've got my ribbons caught. Sweaters, haven't you?
Okay, just hold them out. Right. Head out a little bit, right?
Well, let's move in now to the final heat of Team Speedway of the Sport Team event, Heat 18. Some interesting shots in the Reading pits where all the hard work goes on, not only for Speedway riders, but certainly for the Speedway mechanics. Heat 18, Tony Ricketson, Craig Boyce, Hans Nielsen and Sam Ermolenko. What a showdown. 3 World Speedway champions and the reigning world number 3, all in action together. Well, Team Mullet with 37, Team Nielsen 36 at the moment. Then comes Team Ermolenko 19 and Team Castagna 10. So the big giants then, Team Mullet and Team Nielsen, have got it all to go for this final heat of Team Speedway for the Pera Jonssona benefit meeting. So we'll bring him down to the line. Watch then for Tony Ricketson, the reigning world champion. Craig Boyce in blue, world number 3 at the moment. 3 times the former world champion Hans Nielsen white. And Sam Ermolenko, the American 1993 world champion, in yellow. Well, that's the reigning world champion Tony Ricketson there. Remember, of course, he picked his win up at the Bøyens track in Denmark. So I don't think we're going to split these two. Certainly it's going to be one heck of a final showdown race here at Smallmead. But don't forget, we've got our 2 semi-finals individually and a big runoff final as well for the top scorers from each team. That comes up after this race. Heat 18 now, as the riders come out the starters' orders. Away fires the clutch and away charges the world champion, and so too is Sam Ermolenko. And what a close battle, 3 in line there. Sam Ermolenko coming out ahead of Hans Nielsen, and now Tony Ricketson goes through for second place ahead of Craig Boyce, and Hans Nielsen beginning to struggle. A bit of a lift there for Tony Ricketson, but still out in the lead is the 1993 world champion Sam Ermolenko. Tony Ricketson second, Craig Boyce third, and Hans Nielsen at the back. A surprise for him, because he's competed so well tonight. But Ermolenko is the man who it's all about. Tony Ricketson, the reigning world champion, second place. Craig Boyce third, and Nielsen trying to show down over Boyce in third position. So Nielsen at the back, a surprise, as we say, for Hans Nielsen. Oh, and down has gone Sam Ermolenko. Sam Ermolenko has fallen. What a disaster for him. But the referee says the points are going to stand, and that comes out with a win for Tony Ricketson. Second, Craig Boyce. Third, Hans Nielsen. And that means that the winners are Team Mullet with 40 points. In second position, Team Nielsen with 37, Team Ermolenko 19, and Team Castagna on 12. The final scores there, and Sam Ermolenko, what a sorry sight to see the 1993 World Speedway champion down on the ground. But hopefully he is going to make his way back to the pits. We hope so, shaken if not stirred. Well, there goes Ermolenko back on his feet. The crowd appreciate that, and they certainly appreciate all the effort that has gone into the riders for this particular meeting. So Sam Ermolenko, shaken if not stirred, is able to walk back, assisted by Greg Hancock.
All that, Pat, you've had, obviously, being a promoter at Reading, a lot of dealings with Per. We all know Per as the rider, but Per the businessman, is he hard to deal with?
Not really. I mean, when he first started, all he wanted to do was ride Speedway, and I think really that's all he wants to do any time. Yeah, as he got more into Speedway, he obviously got harder to deal with, but never ridiculous figures. He probably didn't make as much money out of his World Championship year as a lot of riders, but really his first love was riding Speedway, and probably that more so than the businessman.
The season of the 90, obviously, Per won the World Championship, and Reading races, he helped them to become British League champions. And 1992, they went on to win the league, as Per stayed behind 91, not being able to agree a contract for the promotion. But 92, he was back here, and they won the league again. And
so the 1992 Reading races line up according to programme, and at 1 is the former world champion Per Jonssona from Sweden. 2 is a testimonial man in 1992, Dave Mullett. 3, Mr. Reading Speedway, we always call him that, but he still is, Jan Andersson. 4, coming back into the side in 92 from Italy, Armando Castagna. 5, the captain of the racers yet again in 1992, Jeremy Doncaster. And our 2 reserves, at 6 is Ray Morton, and 7 is Philip Morris. shirt, keep riding like that. The winner in red, Mr. Pera. This week to Sam Ermolenko. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, standing ovation please for the rider in red and the winner of Heat 6, Mr. Pera Jonssona. And the 14 seconds, sudden Sam Ermolenko.
Well, as we promised you, we have two semi-finals individually now for the top scorers from each team. We look at the semi-final number one, Billy Hamel, Tony Ricketson, Hans Nielsen and Sam Ermolenko. That's the way it's going to line up. It's just the two first and second riders who will move through to the big do-or-die final. So some terrific action coming up. Semi-final number one then, and there a good shot at Sam Ermolenko, who fell earlier on, but that hasn't disturbed him because he's back out again, taking his place in this semi-final. Next to him, Hans Nielsen in white off gate number 2. We can see now Billy Hamel in blue off gate 3, and Tony Ricketson, the world champion, on the outside. There, in fact, is Billy Hamel. Not a particularly good night for Billy, we have to say, throughout the evening, but he does take his rightful place in this semi-final. Remember, first and second will qualify for the final. Away go the tapes on semi-final number one, and it's that man, Hans Nielsen, again in the white helmet, who's dictating the race action ahead of Sam Ermolenko, perhaps a little bit put off by that fall earlier on. Sam Ermolenko in second position at the moment, and Tony Ricketson and Billy Hamel still to battle on. Well, it's Ricketson through to third, as we can see Billy Hamel there at the back. We're watching second and third positioned riders there. So there we are, Sam Ermolenko and Tony Ricketson. They are adrift of Hans Nielsen. Undoubtedly, Hans Nielsen will go through to the final being the race winner. But just as importantly, it's to finish second, because the second place man goes through to the final as well. And on this showing, it looks like Sam Ermolenko. We'll see what Tony Ricketson can do in the halfway staging. 1 lap to go. Hans Nielsen in the double spoilers front and aft on his machine in pole position. Sam Ermolenko second, and Tony Ricketson trying but I'm afraid not making much impression on Sam Ermolenko. The flag falls then on Hans Nielsen, a qualification place in the final for him. So too for Sam Ermolenko, but Tony Ricketson in third position fails to qualify.
He was great, Jem. Save this moment, go up and pick that magnificent trophy up. Jeremy Doncaster, ladies and gentlemen.
Receiving the Home Far League Championship of 1992 from a member of the Home Far Home Products. And of course, congratulations to all of the Racers 7 who have lifted this magnificent trophy for the second time in 3 years. We wondered if 1992 could be better, but 1992 has turned out that slightly bit better with, of course, that BSPA Cup success at Smallmead recently against the poor GATC Pirates. Jim having a few words with a representative from Core Products, who of course sponsors him as well. So there we go, that's Jeremy Doncaster with the Home Far League Championship winning trophy of 1992. All the boys out to have a look at it and get their medals from, of course, the representative from Home Far tonight. Pera Jonssona going up to get his. He's played his part, and of course, if he gets 12 points or more in the second match against Kings Lynn, then he will be, of course, the Home Far Division 1 top rider on averages in 1992. What a moment for him as well. Collects his trophy. World champion in 1990, and I'm sure you'll be quite happy. Second this season in that Voslav World final, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who still think he's the best in the world.
In the Home Far League? Well, it's great. I mean, I've been trying to reach that for a while now, and I missed out a bit at Bradford and Eastbourne that we did.
Excuse me, madam, would you mind backing off just for a moment? Thank you very much. You've been top of the averages now for a while, as you say, and it was your ambition to do that, was it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I missed out a bit at Eastbourne and that, so I had to do a bit of riding. I needed sort of 44 out of 45 points the last meet, so I had to go for it, and I managed to pull it off, and I'm quite pleased about that, and with the crowd behind me and everything, I really enjoyed it.
It's been a fabulous year personally, Pera, and of course the team in general. What particular moments have pleased you best of all?
Well, it's like I missed out last year and came back, and we won the league this year. I'm really pleased, and we got a good team spirit, I think. That's the main thing. Whatever you do, like, you have to have a good team spirit and cheer each other on. And obviously, I mean, the crowd as well. I mean, the sports and everything, like, stay behind us and cheer us on. That helps a lot. So I think we got a good thing going here.
Got a good thing going, haven't we? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pera Jonssona.
Well, the fun and game's over. Let's concentrate now on the second semi-final. It's Jason Crump in red, Craig Boyce blue, Peter Nolin in white, and Mikael Karlsson in yellow and black. Remember, of course, the top two out of this race will qualify for the big do-or-die final. Already there, Hans Nielsen and Sam Ermolenko. Who is going to make up the quartet? We shall know in about a minute's time from now. The riders coming into view. Mikael Karlsson there in yellow and black. Wolverhampton rider already waiting is Peter Nolin in the white helmet colour. Jason Crump on the inside, and Craig Boyce as well. That's the four who are going to generate. Let's watch them as they are lighting their way into the first turn from the tapes. Oh, what a start for Jason Crump. Brilliant bit of action there. A young Crumpy who steals the show with a race lead over Peter Nolin and Craig Boyce in third position. And that's left Mikael Karlsson at the back, but it's really all about young Crumpy. He's been so superb, rattling in the wins right, left and centre here at Smallmead tonight. In fact, 3 wins and a second place, and a good win here will see him in the final. He looks over his shoulder, but really he has nothing to fear at all. He is breathing fresh air, and what a gap between him and the second place man, Peter Nolin. And Craig Boyce there for third. We watch Boise and we watch Peter Arlin. No slow coaches on any track, but I'm afraid outpowered in the semi-final by Jason Crump. 1 lap to go for Jason. Surely he can smell a place in the final. And the battle really is for second place between Peter Arlin and Craig Boyce. And it's Peter Arlin who's going to hold that second place. Coming up for the win now, the flag for Jason Crump. He picks up a place in the final. So too does Peter Arlin. And Craig Boyce and Mikael Karlsson failed to qualify. So the big final coming up with Hans Nielsen, Sam Ermolenko, Jason Crump and Peter Arlin. Anders, you're going to pick out who's going to win this big run-up climb. Any ideas?
No, I have no idea, but it's 4 men at the gate, so may the best win.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, a great sport, a great favourite of ours, Anders Michenek! Yes! Well, old Anders Michenek a bit cagey in giving his predictions, but here we go now with the big do-or-die final. Hans Nielsen in red, watch for him. Sam Ermolenko blue, Jason Crump in white, Peter Arlin in yellow and black. Some fabulous prizes, air tickets all over the world for the rostrum placed riders in this big final of finals. Well, there we look at Jason Crump, so invincible tonight. Could it the championship be his tonight? We wonder. Could it belong to Peter Arlin? Could it belong to Sam Ermolenko? Or could it be Hans Nielsen? Well, we shall know in a moment as we bring the riders up to the line. So let's watch them then. Hans Nielsen in red, Sam Ermolenko there in blue. As we move over, we have Jason Crump in white. There is Crumpy. And Peter Arlin in yellow and black. An important time, a tense time. The riders know how important it is to win, not only for the prizes, but certainly to put on a first-class show for the vast crowd here, and also for Per Jonsson in attendance. Whoa, what a start goes Sam Ermolenko. And Peter Arlin creeping through, and a bit of a rapid action there for Jason Crump as he cruises through, and Crump in all sorts of little problems there. He's not having the effect that he'd wanted. Still race leading is Sam Ermolenko. There is Hans Nielsen in second place. Jason Crump has got problems, and down goes Crumpy into the kickboard. Jason Crump has gone down as the race surely must be brought to a halt. John Homer, our referee, slams on the red lights. The racing is stopped, and we now look for Jason Crump sprawled on the track.
Jason has been a great competitor tonight. In fact, all the boys have. Every single rider that's been here will commend them. But there is a man holding his feet, ladies and gentlemen. Jason Crump, fabulous to him.
Well, Jason, a bit of damage to his wrist there, although he was able to walk back to the pits. He has been excluded from the rerun of this final, so we are left with just 3. We are left with Hans Nielsen in red, Sam Ermolenko, and there is Sam now in blue, and Peter Arlin in yellow and black. So 3 riders only for the second time of asking. Away we go with a run-off final. And what a brilliant start there for Peter Arlin with Hans Nielsen. Hans Nielsen, second time of asking, gets it absolutely right, where perhaps he was struggling for the first time. But it's Nielsen ahead of Peter Arlin and Sam Ermolenko in blue for third position. 3 riders only, as I told you. Jason Crump being excluded. A terrible catastrophe for him towards the end of this meeting. Courageous attempt he's put up throughout the whole meeting, and such a shame to see him fall in his last ride. But all about Hans Nielsen now. Surely he can smell success. As I say, prizes donated by various airlines will jet these riders all over the world for their participation of this particular event and their championship wins in this final. 1 lap to go. It's Hans Nielsen race leading over Peter Arlin, and Sam Ermolenko is in third position. And I think by now they're not going to try any heroics. They're going to let the race drift on with a win for surely Hans Nielsen. There goes the familiar wheelie. He crosses the line to pick up the win. Second is Peter Arlin, and Sam Ermolenko in for third position. Some terrific racing at Small Mead tonight. Some sparkling first-class action, and we commend all the riders who've competed. So some great racing. The presentation's coming up with Per Jonsson handing over the checks in a moment.
Well, we've got a lot of press The presentation of a brand new helmet goes to the top scoring reserve. Jan Anderson's retiring, so we've got to give it to Shane Bowes. Come on, Shane. Where's Shane? There he is. Well done. Next we have two presentations, the NGK trophy, which is just there, Nicky, and this envelope which contains £50. The awards, ladies and gentlemen, are for the most and for the fastest time of the night. They both go to the World Speedway champion, Tony Rickardson. And Tony has a very special announcement to make to you. Tony won the Swedish Championship very recently, and he made a decision what to do with the money. Tony, would you like to tell the fans?
We did all the donation, all the cocktail.
So, the golden spanners go to the following riders in Team Mullet. Tony Rickardson, come on, applaud him again, please. Jason Crump.
Dave. Dave, one with Pera.
A very quick word with Jan. We decided, because you and Shane Bowes were level, to give the helmet to him because he's racing next year. You didn't mind that, I hope?
No.
So you've got the spanners. You're still going to do some engine tuning?
Yes, I enjoy that.
Great. Thank you very much for being here tonight. God bless, and do come and see us again, won't you?
Well, I'm pleased to be here tonight. Great.
Lovely to see you. He said it all for us.
He wants to take one again, isn't he? Do I get one with
Jane, lovely. Jane, one more, Jane, for me.
Right.
Lovely. Jane, Jane, look into the camera, Jane. All right.
Yeah, I want to get one off.
Okay. Right, okay, Jane. Lovely. Thank you.
Come on. Third in the final, let's greet him. He's had a tough old meeting tonight with a fall. He wins 2 tickets to Johannesburg with a stopover, if he wishes, in Vienna. New territory then for Sam Malenko. I'll just ask Sam to say what he said to Pera.
I just like to say that I'm impressed with it's been echo some of the other guys' feelings on the turnout tonight. It was tremendous, and we all really thought a lot about Per and his family and all his friends and the people that put this together. It's really good. And to echo the feelings again, it's just great to have so many people. I've been through tremendous accidents and had great support from so many people. I just hope that that he'll remember this day, and I'm sure it's a major, major boost to his rehabilitation, and I wish him luck. I just can't tell him how much, you know, everything means. All of us riders really feel for you, buddy, because we're out there risking our lives as you did, and we're gunning for you, buddy. Go for it.
Thank you, Sam. Ladies and gentlemen, the second place man wins a trip on Iceland Air to any of their US destinations from Florida up to Boston and New York. He can have a stopover if he wants in Reykjavik and see the geysers and the hot springs. Mike Patrick baths in every day, or should, in Iceland. Peter Narleen! Peter, I should tell you, shares a house with Per in West Swindon, and he's been looking after it for him. And a lot of people have given us extra more than £7 for the ticket. As I said earlier, when he bought a ticket for his dad on Friday night from me, he gave me £20 and said put the change in the fund. I think that says it all. Peter Narleen, ladies and gentlemen.
Till nu är vi poängar på. Lovar det.
Well, it's ready. We can go home now, can't we? Oh no, we've got someone. On his last ever appearance here at Reading, unless we have a world final, and the way things were going, we should. The winner of tonight's meeting, he gets 2 tickets anywhere in the world or any worldwide destination of SAS, Mr. Hans Nielsen.
Hands, let's kneel down beside. Right,
hands too.
Hands, kneel down, face this way. Now, come in right close to him.
That's lovely.
All right, mind your voice. That
Okay,
right,
that's
Michael?
matching this way. Lovely. Thank you.
Lovely this way, Hands. Lovely, mate, lovely.
Great coverage of this meeting, so I'm sure that all of you here have enjoyed the Speedway tonight.
Show the SAS. Show the SAS. All right.
They haven't been riding around, they've been racing.
That's it. Okay, that's smashing. Okay.
Lovely, lovely,
Wonderful.
lovely.
Like
Okay,
that.
this way, Hands, lovely.
That's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
What do you think of it, Peter? Are you now things like it? Yeah. Excellent meeting. I've got to thank each and everyone. Stood on the terraces, walked road riders. We now have a presentation to make to Maria, Pera's lovely wife. And heaven knows she must have been through more nightmares than we could ever imagine. And we'd like to give her a big bunch of flowers. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear your applause and appreciation for Maria Jonssona. Just get in there. There, we spoke earlier. You were enjoying the meeting. It's all over now, and I guess in a way you can do a sigh of relief.
Well, this day is going to sort of live on for a long time, and it's just so great to see all the riders turn up and all the crowd. And I mean, as I said before, the crowd is like my family, and it's just nice to see so many people come and watch this meeting. And I wish I could have been there myself, but I just, it's so hard to describe in words what I feel for all of you that have been turning up today and the riders. So thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, hey Jonssona! And Per still has some more to say.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the people that have been helping me to sort of get this meeting done. And first of all, I'd like to thank Pat Bliss from Reading. So where's Pat?
Yeah, good question. Where is she? Pat Bliss, she who must be obeyed. She is here. Here she is, Pat.
It's a gift for appreciation. So it's the least I can do.
No worry, I just want to see you here next March. Lift the table and next year. Okay, Saturday?
I will be
All right, we look forward to that.
Hang on. I'd like to thank Paul Bradford as well for helping us putting this meeting together.
Bobby, come on down.
For once when I opened my mouth I was right. You've got all the qualities to fight and make the best possible recovery. We know you will. God bless you.
Thanks, Bob.
I would like to thank Sven Hayden for putting up door prizes for this meeting.
Sven?
Sven,
not Sam.
No, not you, Sam.
Oh, not Sam.
So what do I do now?
Pretty close. Well, we know that Sven's been here.
Oh, he's there. Come over.
All right.
Sven.
And everybody says thank you to all your help.
Thanks for that.
You have a few words, thank you.
Well, what can I say? I saw Pera in 1982, and I then felt he was the best young speedway rider I ever saw. And I think that is true also today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The fan club.
Yeah.
Team Jonssona. Where is Caroline? Well, it's gone very quiet. Where are you, Caroline? You normally make a lot of noise.
Changing the trousers.
Changing those awful stripy trousers, probably. But they were here, as we know. Perhaps maybe we'll... Oh, she's here! Here she is. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, Caroline, hooray, first, thank you.
Thank you. And I also have a special thanks to Jimmy and Nicky, who's done a great job. I mean, I know they've had some sleepless nights to put this together, and it's a big thing they've done, and I don't know anyone that could have done it better than they did. Thank you, Jimmy and Nicky.
Jimmy Nelson and Nicky. Come on, let's hear it for Jimmy. And Nicky.
Well, I mean, there's so many people I want to thank, and if I forgot anyone, there's so many people that I can't remember all the names, but everyone has been there and sort of helping me put this meeting together and being behind me all these years. I'd like to thank everyone.
Thank you. Thank you also.
Was such a safe rider. He was a hard rider, he was an entertaining rider, but he didn't even wobble on a bike. There was no way he was going to fall off. I think in the years he was with Reading, he's never had an injury. So we really couldn't believe it, and yeah, it's dreadful.
was just back home from hospital, and well, it was on Monday morning, and I funny because I thought,